Hey, home time for Type 40 Live, the Doctor Who live stream magazine show returning to your view screen here on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook too. Welcome back, gathering a panel of faces and voices to catch up with all things Doctor Who from way back then, or whichever stop, whatever decade, to right here and right now, all in front of a live chat full of fellow friends, fans, and companions, just like you. He's smiling now. He's smiling now, everybody. Yes, it may not literally be a new year, but we've got the promise or the perils of 2025. They're beginning to make themselves known, aren't they? And here we are on Type 40 Live to sort of take stock of it, keep track of it if we dare, and to figure out if any of it good news at all. I've got some great news for you. Well, it's good news for me. Hello, standing with you. I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks, back again to host Type 40 Live here with a panel of friends I'm going to bring on in a moment, with people there in the live chat too, across YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. Thank you, everybody. So many comments to get to already. I can't wait to say hello again to all of you and all of them, despite all of this. It's all kicking off. They're all clinging on to one another, aren't they? Oh dear, I'm sure it will be fine. There's no need to change the bulb to red just yet. We can stick with the mauve. What do you think? Yes. So okay, so the heating is still up. I think we've had the shortest day, haven't we? Things are starting to brighten up now, at least, and warm up a little. We've just got Doctor Who news to sort of unwrap and untap and try and make sense of, as well as give you our takes on what could be to come. Who's next? Who's next to fill up the console room? I am delighted to say back with us right away. It's been a few weeks since I spoke to him, but here he is, Simon Horton.
Oh, is that me? Am I on?
It's you, pal. It's you. Welcome back.
We're back. We're back.
We're back. We're back. Overjoyed. And resplendent.
How long has it been? It seems like a very, very long time since we were here, Dan. Was it last year? Was it even last year? No, it was the beginning of the year, wasn't it? January.
Yeah, we did show 200 that wrapped up the last lot. I think it was mid-January sometime. So it's not as long as you think, but there's been stuff going on. There's a lot more to talk about now, with silly season in the rearview mirror, and there's Doctor Who's back in the press.
Yeah,
it's a pity it couldn't be for better reasons. We have no doubt we'll get into some of that a little later on. But how have you been?
I've been good. Well, I've so been good. I've had the cold. I've had the cold that everybody's had. I think we've all had the cold, haven't we? But thank goodness at the moment, touch wood, I am over it and all is good. But I've been out of action for a while actually with the cold. So if anybody's been contacting me and I've not been very good at getting back to you, I'm sorry, folks. I was laid low for a little while. But it's good to be back. I'm so looking forward to tonight. It's great to be back with you guys. Lovely to be here again.
It's really good to see you, and it's good to see them too. Yes, it wouldn't be Type 40 Live without Charlotte, would it?
Hello, everybody.
Hello, darling. Are you well?
Hello.
God, it's been ages, Simon, it feels like.
I know, it does feel like ages, doesn't it? And it actually hasn't been that long. Dan's right. It's probably been about a month, but it does feel longer. Are you well? Have you had the dreaded lurgy?
Yeah, actually, considering where I work, I've not been that bad for a cold over winter so far.
I haven't got you yet.
I know, there's plenty of time yet.
Fingers crossed for you, my darling.
Plenty time yet, and plenty more room as well in this cavernous console room, which I've gone right off in the last few months, Simon. I'm now on your side. You've won me.
You've joined the dark side, haven't you? You've joined the dark side.
Yeah, that means I've got to change the bulb again, doesn't it? Well, no, I can't be bothered doing all that.
You wonder, Dan, whether it's just that we've kind of all got bored of it because there's not much happening in it. It's very cavernous. There's not a lot of detail to it. So once you've seen it a few times, you've seen it. There's not much more there's no depth to it.
There's no depth. There's a lot to be said for moody lighting, for brooding in and being mean and moody. I can't think of anyone I know that does that better than our real life time traveller, Matt Pott. It's a good job he's here, isn't it?
Well, it is. Let's hope he
I
is.
knew you were talking about me.
You are in the dark
I'm
again,
Batman.
Matt. You are,
I'm
as
Batman.
always, in the dark.
Hello, mate. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it is good to be back. Yeah, really missed you guys. So,
Oh,
yeah.
I missed you too.
I missed you too, pal. I missed you too. You've been off on your travels as well, haven't you? Not time travels as such, more space travels. But we've been keeping track, and you've been having fun and catching up with family and friends and things, haven't you?
Yeah, playing with butterflies, stuff like that. It's been fantastic.
Big softy.
I don't even know what the butterflies is. I'm probably best not.
He comes on here and moaning and groaning about Shooty Gatwa and his silly trousers and his silly hair, and then he goes frolicking with butterflies in his spares. There are all sides to Matt.
I cried too.
I'm
Well,
really
you have to have a
intrigued about
sensitive
these, Matt.
side.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You cried. Yes, you're channeling Shooty Gatwa after all.
Yes.
And making up the panel, I'm happy to say. Also back with us for another stint. Yes, there's one born every minute. This one's name is John Yulden.
Hey, how you all doing? You all right?
Woo-hoo! Hello, John.
Hello, John.
Good to see
Really
you.
well,
Motor.
thank you, mate. It's great.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I haven't cried. I just want to make that clear. Okay.
I haven't
So,
cried either, John. I can't remember crying.
Good,
Not recently.
good. There's two
Yeah.
tough guys in this panel,
Yeah.
so let's keep it that way. All right.
Starsky and Hutch of Type 49. hard nuts. Or well, if you haven't got emotional yet, you probably will by the time we get into the live chat, because I can see the
Thanks.
comments are mounting up already. Obviously, we're on the usual places: Rumble, X, YouTube, and on Facebook here with a brand new run of Type 40 Live. So if there's been recovered and slightly repointed, and we've moved the furniture around a little. But yeah, sort of the same old faces and most of the same jokes. So if you like a touch of the familiar, then you're certain to get a lot of that as we continue on. But there's a lot of 2025 to cover already. It was very, very quiet until a couple of weeks ago, but it started to ignite when we last saw Shooty Gatwa, the 15th Doctor. So they keep telling us. When we last saw Shooty Gatwa, of course, he was all on his own yet again in those silly braces. He just decided not to take with him Anita, the best Doctor Who companion that there's probably been in about 15 years. He left her back at the ranch. And heaven knows what's going to happen next. We know there's another companion waiting in the wings to join the pantheon here of fabulous Doctor Who companions from 1963 right the way to the present day. But just as we're all back together now, everybody, for this reunion of sorts, there's been Doctor Who companions having a reunion as well. Did you catch this picture a couple of weekends ago? I think this was. It's a selfie on stage with about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 former Doctor Who companions from across various different eras. Did you see this, Charlotte?
No, but it's weird to see so many. Usually get like 2 at most.
Yeah. Actually,
Where is this from, Dan? Is this Gallifrey?
It was happy hour at the Lamb and Flag in Dudley. Yeah. No,
it so wasn't.
No, it wasn't. This they were on stage, everybody. On stage, live at MegaCon Orlando.
Oh, okay.
That was on February the 6th through to the 9th. So it's a little while ago in Orange County Convention Center. So it looks pretty spectacular, and they do look like they're having a really great time. So we had Amanda Gill, Billy Piper, Freema Agyeman, Jenna Coleman, Alex Kingston, and Arthur Darvill, who looks like he just got up.
Is Alex Kingston there? Is this a new Big Finish spin-off where they're actually going to have a meeting every one of the audience as well as every doctor?
Well, here's the thing, John. They're going to run out of doctors eventually.
Yeah.
Every
Arthur
audience
Darvill
member,
is
one by one.
channeling his inner Frank Spencer, I think.
It is
Yeah,
a
it
little,
is.
isn't it? Yeah, he fancies himself as a bit of a sort of a hobo, I think, doesn't he? He missed out on that film about the guy. What was it? A cat called Bob, a street cat called Bob. He'd have been great in that, wouldn't he? Yeah. So if you were there for the MegaCon Orlando for the panel, there, let us know. Was it good? Was a good time had by all? Did they let anything slip there on the panel? There they all are. Look, it is good to see Doctor Who sort of icons with a small eye. icons from the new sort of era of Doctor Who all together like this, because obviously it's been going for so long now. It is kind of weird to see them all together. And there was photo shoots as well, as there often is at these things. There's Catherine Tate's got in on that one as well. Billy Piper's hair's a bit of a fright, isn't it, Simon? Blimey.
Yeah. It's bright, that's for sure. I can boast I have been to this particular venue. I've been to the Orange County Convention Centre. Yeah, I have many years ago. Not for a Doctor Who convention, for something completely unrelated to Doctor Who. But it's quite a venue. It's very, very plush, as you can imagine.
It does look spectacular. In all truth, we've got Matt Smith and Catherine Tate getting in on the action in this picture. I mean, it is. I just think it's lovely to see Doctor Who faces there together, having a good time. Obviously, somebody did pay for this privilege, so I just want to acknowledge, because the original photo did the rounds all over social media, and most of Doctor Who fans had cropped off the couple who'd pay to have the thing taken. So full credit to Rhodes Coded on social media for this one, which I think is the couple at either side of the group of Doctor Who icons. I think it's a really fun picture, and fair play to them for letting everybody see it.
Why does Freeman Adjman's hand look like Freddy Krueger's? Have you seen the hand? Look at the hand.
That is a bit bizarre, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good photo.
Had a nails number. A fabulous picture.
Arthur Darvill is thoroughly enjoying himself, isn't he? In fact, they all are.
Yeah, they all look like they're having a genuinely good time. I mean, Matt Smith living the dream as always. Yeah, it's good to see them. Good to see them. Obviously, somebody who wasn't there was Karen Gillan. Karen Gillan. Yes, she's been a little too busy with a new arrival. Did you see this? This is the first picture of Karen Gillan with her baby daughter Clementine, and Karen did share this. Just this one picture there. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah,
lovely. It's lovely.
Yeah.
We've tried to keep the press away from us so that they don't talk about our lovely baby, but people keep encroaching on our privacy.
It is really. I know Jenna Coleman had her baby sort of late last year, something like that. But no, it's just really, really nice to see this, and obviously our congratulations to Karen, her husband, and family, and baby Clementine as well. Welcome to the Whoniverse.
Baby Clementine doesn't look that interested, if we're honest.
No, I suppose not. New arrivals, all around. So yeah, that's all good stuff. But there's been another due date being revealed, confirmed as well, of a bit more significance to the broader Whoniverse. I think it depends on who you are, really, whether the next few months or the months in between seasons can come or go quick enough. I've had the strangest experience over the last 8 or 9 months, in that whilst I'm not dreading the next series of Doctor Who, Charlotte, I'm not anticipating it either. I seem to be in a state of nullness about the whole thing.
Yeah, I think the problem is we were excited. Well, some of us were to more degrees, but we had that sort of anticipation of series 1. And then it arrived, and now we're sort of like, what on earth are they going to do this time? I think is the general vibe, honestly.
Obviously, this will be the second season of the latest incarnation of the series, made again by the partners Bad Wolf and BBC Studios. I think we knew that it was going to start a little earlier this calendar year, didn't we, than last? Not by much, though, and Shootigat was the Doctor again with a newcomer companion. And so a few days ago, though, everybody was sort of waiting for the news about when we were going to get the official date on this, John. You know, because there's usually some big fanfare all across social media, or some purpose-made advert that they put on prime time on BBC One, and they put out the thing on your socials and say, for the date will be confirmed, 5:20 BBC One. Don't miss the teaser for the teaser trailer. This year there was nothing. There was nothing of the sort. The viewers of the BBC late night rugby coverage were the first to receive the news of when Doctor Who would be back, and this is how they broke it to them. Check it out.
There are forces beyond this universe, so look into them.
Doctor! to get me home.
Like how the score's still in the bottom left.
Yeah, they're focused on the important stuff, aren't they, clearly? Ooh, red logo.
Red logo and a date revealed at Saturday, the 12th of April, 2025 is the date for Ncuti Gatwa to reappear as the Doctor with newcomer Verada Sethu as companion Belinda. Well, I say newcomer, she's been in it before, hasn't she? But you know what I mean.
Who on earth comes up with the idea of putting it out for late night rugby though? Because the current iteration of Doctor Who doesn't jive with rugby fans, if I'm being perfectly honest. So...
It doesn't jive with Doctor Who fans.
Can I just say though, that iconic diamond logo, what have they done to it? It looks terrible in that shot. You know, that color, it just doesn't do it for me at all.
You're not feeling the new look, the slightly refreshed image.
It looks like some what a drunken lady's done on a night out on a toilet mirror. You know, that kind of lipstick color. You know,
oh, that's horrible.
Around.
Yeah,
oh, I hadn't seen that version, John. I thought you were talking about the red one at the end of the trailer. Well, it's pink, isn't it? Of course, it's pink. It's obviously going to be pink. Duh.
Yeah, this is the one. These are the posters that are absolutely everywhere at the moment. It does look a bit like. Now you've said it, it does look a bit like a lippy.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
It looks unfinished, like they haven't quite put the paint in yet.
Maybe that's their promotion for this series, that you go into every women's toilet in a pub and there's going to be a Doctor Who logo and lipstick on the mirror. Maybe that's what they're going for this time, you know,
like a
ground level
thing, just
ground level
country.
promotion. Yeah.
It's odd the way they've cropped the top off it as well. I mean, obviously, presumably it's supposed to be disappearing under the Doctor's belt on his coat, but it's not. I think it's just poorly designed, that because it's not adequately. The BBC works well with his head over the BBC. But just taking the top off and you got there's not enough detail. That the black is crushed on the coat anyway, so you can't see where the belt is. So it just looks like the logo has not been quite grafted on properly. It hasn't been pasted on.
That looks really dumb. Now you've pointed that out, Simon. I didn't know why they did that. Now you've pointed it out. I can understand it, but I'm like, why?
If you're going to do it, you've got to go for it. The same as they've done with the BBC logo. That works.
I think they're being clever. That's the problem. The designers think they're being clever, and
I don't dislike it myself. The composition of it just looks a little bit like the flyer to a really cheap nightclub. The choice of colours.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, you guys will know more than me about, making sure colours work together, but they've got the same colours for April with the background colour of what is that meant to be a planet or something. So
yeah, that's right.
I don't think that works either.
I think it reads quite well in all truth. Well, I just get a little. It's like you've said. It's that choice of pink. I think it would have looked better. The Doctor Who would have looked better in bright white, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's really bad typography anyway, but I'm not going to go in there.
That's
the April and everything is just the worst typography I've ever
seen. We're getting used to that.
Yeah. And also, I don't understand the logic of having Ncuti's back to us. Like you're leading man, and he's not even looking at you.
He's supposed to be brooding.
It's probably
he can't
because
do brooding.
He can't.
It's probably because if he turns around, he's probably only got his pants on, so they're just doing us a favour.
Who cares about Ncuti Gatwa anyway? When there's Verada Sethu to welcome back. Ncuti's been welcoming her to the TARDIS on his socials, on Instagram, his social media of choice. He says, "I can't wait for you all to meet Miss Belinda Chandra," and he's got the heart-faced emoji. I do share the emoji. I'm rather smitten, as I may have mentioned a time or two. But he goes on to say that Verada gives an insane performance, a star, and there she is. She's also got her own character poster too, same exact style, but the words "new season" are either side of the actress there. So obviously she was in the last season playing a different character completely. Here we're gonna get to meet Belinda, who in an interview to the Doctor Who magazine that's been published just today, she promises that she will be an equal to the Doctor. Where have we heard that before, Simon? Everywhere.
Every companion isn't equal to the Doctor these days. Well, at least the females. The females are always equal to the Doctor. The males aren't. The males are still stupid. But the females are always equal to the Doctor these days.
Well, people were complaining about that on social media. Here's another arrogant companion. And I thought, well, in all fairness, this is just something. I think that each actress who plays a new Doctor Who girl, the new Doctor Who companion, tends to say the same things to the press. And I remember, for example, when Mary Tam was cast as
I was just
Romana.
going to say it's Romana. Yeah, it dates back.
And it was then, and then again with Tegan. She'll give him some back. Matt, and of course Ace. I mean, not all of them, but a lot of them, and particularly in the new series, they're sort of co-leads, aren't they? So again, I'm sure that Vrada said that, but it's like, oh come on, it's nothing.
Yeah, it is just a little bit dull these days.
The thing was, though, those companions all had vulnerabilities. The Doctor, you didn't know what his vulnerability was. He was, except for humans, pretty much.
Yeah,
so
true.
I'm not keen on this series at all.
I must be honest. Garbage sort of picks up on this, that it's an awful photo shoot on her, and I have to be honest. I do agree. It's not a good photo. It's not showing her in a particularly good angle. She doesn't look very dynamic. She looks a bit bored. She looks as though she's standing on the set waiting for them to tell her how to stand so they can get a good dramatic photo of her.
It's more a Star Trek picture, like she's about to beam up.
Oh yeah, it is. It is a bit like that. It just looks a bit unengaging, a bit disengaged.
They didn't do anything clever with the logo this time. They didn't put it in a cleavage or anything. I mean,
at least with the Doctor, it is. He's got a dramatic pose, whether we like him facing away or not. It is a dramatic pose. She just looks a bit bored. And it's not her fault.
We can see right up her nose. I mean, obviously, she's meant to reflect us, isn't she? But I do know what you mean. It's supposed to be aspirational, I think.
Yeah, and it's just a bit of a blank expression. It is just a bit.
It's obviously the Disney Plus variant, slightly different.
That looks so much better with the silver logo. That looks so much better. And then, oddly, they haven't sliced off the top of the logo on the Doctor with that one. They've realised that actually it was a bit of a silly idea.
Looking forward to meeting Belinda, Charlotte?
Well, yeah, because I think as much as I liked Ruby, I think the more I sort of, after the series went out, thought about the character, actually they didn't do a lot with her beside a mystery, which amounted to nothing. So I'm hoping we get a bit more dynamic character as a companion here, not just somebody who's there to be positive and to be good at stuff.
You know what I'd like to see, Charlotte? I'd like to see a really interesting, vulnerable character rather than somebody who's strong and going for it.
Really capable.
Somebody that's interesting and
we don't see that.
He's vulnerable. He's not a super.
Simon, we don't see that in our media, particularly with women anymore, do we?
No.
Well, no. It's like if you go back to Billie Piper and Rose in that first series. She had multiple episodes where she got like culture shock and she was froze because she didn't know what to do and she made mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had loads of that with Rose and it made you sort of endear her more to you because you saw this sort of teenager almost vibe at times, sort of being thrown into this mad world and not being able to do it well. And that's, I agree, Simon. I'd love it if she had sort of a struggle or couldn't adjust very well or had anything like that as a character arc.
Karen Gillan was quite good at channeling that side to Amy as well.
I simply can't remember enough of that, I must be honest. I don't remember.
The thing is with Amy, it was to do with her childhood because the Doctor left her. So she had a lot of like issues around that, which made her sort of lash out at times at him, which was also a nice difference in a companion.
So Disney have the best campaign. This is 6 or 7 weeks away now for these 8 episodes and the debut of yet another new co-star. Disney Plus, yes, the Disney Plus situation. Obviously, we spoke about that on the last edition of the show. According to our information, Disney Plus are already out, and the stars are both also out too. But it's been revealed just today that episodes are going to land on the iPlayer from 8 a.m. every Saturday from the 12th of April, not at midnight night before, which is obviously how it was last year, that a lot of people were really unhappy with. So this has obviously had a knock-on effect in that in America, because the whole reason why they did that was to please Disney Plus, because they wanted it on the Friday, didn't they, John? Do you remember?
Yeah, they did. And I think this, for me, mate, is it just speaks to what you were just saying about Disney being out. It's Disney are no longer having a big say anymore in the current series that's coming. They're out, and they, therefore the current production are prioritizing the UK again because it's failed.
Well, it could also be, John, it could be that if Disney are out, they just don't really care.
Exactly
it could be that they're just not really that bothered. They've sort of said to the BBC, "Oh yeah, fine."
Any partnership comes with a compromise, doesn't it? But it did seem last year, John, that Disney had it all their own way, and that Doctor Who really suffered. Regardless of what any of us thought of the episodes themselves, if we take a step back from it, the promotion of it, the profile of it, the sense of any kind of occasion around it, really, really suffered as a direct result of choices or conditions brought by being on that particular streaming platform.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I think it kind of last year for me, it just felt like, they'd even given up on trying to even pretend that it's event television by the fact that they were putting it out at silly times on iPlayer, when Doctor Who was always on at a specific time in the UK. And whether you loved it or hated it, you pretty much did end up sitting around to check it out. Now it's just more and more becoming a streaming vehicle, just like it's hitting the 21st century, isn't it? And it's going more and more that way now, I think.
Well, and if they're screening, if it's being released at 8 o'clock in the morning on the Saturday, that's going to, it doesn't really matter whether it's midnight or 8 a.m. It's still doing what you're saying, John, which is sort of killing the chances of any degree of a sort of event television being worked around it. So they're still theoretically, they are throwing away a big launch, a big premiere of each episode. They're obviously not committed to that point. So, but that's the way the world these days seems. I don't think it's just Doctor Who. I think that's how it works.
Yeah, they're all doing it now, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Obviously, it still means that America gets it before us, Charlotte. It will screen. So when it drops on Disney Plus, because of the various different time zones there in the States, it will be between 12 a.m. and 3 a.m. where it will sort of drop depending on where people are on the other side of the Atlantic. So I think it's good that a compromise has been reached, but it's a pretty slim one. I'm not sure how much difference it will make to Doctor Who fans, because there are some people who couldn't help but stay up till 1 a.m, and that's their problem.
Yeah, I think they're sort of banking on trying to get the figures up during the day for people watching it. I won't be surprised if that's a bit of a strategy here. And a few people have said it in our chat, like the way they've announced this, it feels so minimal effort. Like they're not excited about it themselves. They're not sort of geared up for it. The fact that we've had one trailer, really, that's about it. They've just thrown this date out, like you said. No teaser trailer telling us the date's coming. They just put it out there with no real warning.
Yeah.
So it sort of just feels like they're just doing, oh, come on, let's just get it out. But honestly, that's the vibe that it's giving off right now.
I'm in two minds, because I feel that we can't sit here and complain week on week about hyperbole and needless sort of sensation. And then when they do something fairly modest and simple, then complain about that as well.
Mm-hmm. I think Charlotte's right, and I think it comes down to something very, very basic. And it's when season 1 was coming out, they were very, very confident, almost to the point of arrogance, where they were publicly having a pop at people. Yeah, smugness. We're having a pop at people. That first season did not go down well at all. And as we've talked about here on Type 40 before, they've done some reshoots, yes, and some remounts, but they filmed the 2 seasons together. So pretty much the bulk of it is as shot. So they're not as confident now because of how season 1 was received. And I think that's where Charlotte is right, where they're quietly kind of almost promoting it at the moment. I think it'll ramp up in a few weeks' time. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're sort of like just gently sort of tiptoeing towards the start of the series as opposed to how they did things last year.
6 or 7 weeks till all hell breaks loose. I've got a synopsis here as well, Charlotte. It says the Doctor meets Belinda Chandra and begins an epic quest to get her back to Earth. It's a bit of simple intrigue. It says, but a mysterious force is stopping their return, and the time-traveling TARDIS team must face great dangers, bigger enemies, and wider terrors than ever before. So it says something without necessarily saying anything. But again, I don't want to start complaining about the fact that they're not overdoing it when, as John said last year, they kind of went at it like a bullet to gate and delivered practically nothing.
Well, yeah, I think for me there's a difference between hyperbole, which is it's the bestest ever, it's amazing, the biggest talents and all of that, than just looking confident and sounding confident. I think you can. There's a middle ground.
Yeah, you're quite right. And if you're wondering, Charlotte, where you've seen that poster before, the Shooty Gatwa poster of him holding his sonic screwdriver that we were looking at a moment ago, does it look familiar at all?
I've not clicked, but I saw what people were saying in the chat, which I'm really surprised I didn't click. Yeah.
There's this one, yeah. This was niggling me as soon as I saw it for hours. And then somebody popped this up on one of the social medias. Yeah. Do you think, Charlotte, this is a deliberate attempt to channel, even subliminally, people right back to when Doctor Who was at its international peak, at least in 2011, something like that?
It's so similar. It makes me think, yes. Like if he was just maybe had his back to us, you could say like, that's a normal thing. Like that's not. But the position of the hand, the sonic, it's identical.
Yeah.
Matt Smith's is bigger.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, maybe it's just the fact that, I mean, we've said this before, maybe Doctor Who's been back for so long now, it's simply the fact that we have seen it, or I don't know. I mean, obviously, I hope that come Saturday, the 12th of April, for those 7 or 8 weeks, there's something new for us old hands, and it attracts some new people. I hope. I think he probably, does he hope? Actually, no, I don't think Shooty cares. Quite frankly, I don't think he cares. He's checked right the way out, and we'll be following the developments on that as the weeks continue. Mark your calendar, Simon. Make sure you do anything else.
I have marked my calendar with exactly what I'm doing on the 12th of April, and I'm out that evening. I can show you my calendar where I'm going on the 12th of April.
What would the big guy say? Oh, Russell, we've let you.
He would say it was the bestest series ever. You won't believe what is coming.
Look at the badge he's wearing. God.
2025 off to a flying start, and heaven knows what else we're gonna cover as we get deeper into what our thoughts, our predictions may be, Matt, about what's to come. Things can only get better. I would think, maybe. You never know, do you? Maybe they know in the live chat. We'll go and check in with them right now because we've got a stack of comments. I know. Look at that. Shooty's wondering where we're going to get started with it all. Heaven knows. But we'll give it our best. We'll give it our best.
Watch type 40, or I will be paying you a little visit.
Like the Zygon says.
That's a proper Zygon, that is.
Water, I don't know what will. Yes, we're back, everybody, and so are they. Thank you so much for your patience and those comments. Let's see who's here from the get-go. Right way back when. Darren in the Darren Zone there. Evening and welcome back, he says. Welcome back to you too, Darren. Your mic is on. This is the Zero Room. I should hope so. Hi, everyone. Welcome back, says Lord Thoth.
Hello, Lord Thoth.
And we have Kieran Cole back as well. They're watching on YouTube. Hello, everyone. Hope
Hello,
you're all
Kieran.
keeping well.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Hope you are.
Well, thanks.
Not keeping badly at all, Kieran. Let us know how you are as well. Please do. Richard Brooks says good evening. Good evening
Hello,
all
Richard.
around. And to the people in the live chat as well. Happy to see you back. Crimpling Doubloons back too with an ahoy ship face for
Ahoy! First one of the year.
We've got predictions mounting up already, so we'll come back to those in a little while. T Dwarf Productions, that's our friend Tom.
Hello,
he
Tom.
says hi, everyone.
Hi, Tom.
Hope you're feeling fishy because it's Pisces, the fish. You're one of those people who knows your horoscopes at all, John. All that mystifies me. Apart from my own, I never know what anybody else's is.
Oh, I was always on the cusp, so I was either a Pisces or Aquarius. So I just read the one that was the better day. And just went with that.
Cover your bases.
style.
Yeah.
A winning strategy. A winning strategy. Avon Lives, says Lord Thoth. We've got Evening All. Oh, that's from you, John.
Oh, it's you.
That's me from the future.
Always rough. It's been a bit of time traveling.
I'm liking your icon there, John. I'm thinking that's a little bit of Darryl Joyce artwork.
It is Darryl Joyce. All credit to the great one.
Nice.
We'll probably come to Darren later on. Peter Harrington's in the live chat as well, as
Hello,
is
Peter.
Woodhouse.
We're going to say happy birthday to Peter. Peter's birthday was it the day before, or might even be today? Peter, remind me. I wish you happy birthday.
Before.
Happy
birthday for Peter.
And he watched Web of Fear for his birthday as well.
What a way to spend your birthday.
Yeah.
Nice.
Top choice.
Doctor Who story of choice on your birthday. We've got Philip Roy in the live chat as well.
Hello, Phil.
Hello, everyone, says Phil. Filming on Doctor Who Meets the Scorpion continues in mid-March. You may well be seeing Phil a little later on in the show as well. Energize, says Lord Thoth. That's the picture of Belinda that we had on earlier on, doing her Star Trek thing, beaming her up. That's what Lord Thoth means there. Who else is here? Who else is waiting? Woodhouse 122 says, Doctor, in a dress. Let's not answer. Is SOS. Dresses and skirts are different things, as my various girlfriends and significant others have reminded me over the years. Skirts and dresses are different, and kilts are different as well. But I do, that wouldn't rhyme, would it? If it was a kilt or a skirt.
It's a good line. Let Woodhouse have it. It's a good line.
Jack's back. Jack's there in the
Hello,
light.
Jack.
Jack's coming on next week. You're coming on next week, Jack. Yes?
You can't let him on next week. We'll just all look so uncool next to Jack. I mean, look at him.
I did actually drop Jack a message, so hopefully we'll be back next week. It's good to see you there, Jack. Hope you're well. Can't wait to catch up with you properly too. We're getting the band back together, says Philip Roy. There's filming continues. Good stuff. Who else is here? Let's see who else is hiding away. Nicholas Horton's in. Charlotte with a hi,
Nicholas.
just for you. Jack says he's missed us too. We miss you, mate. We miss you too. We have in Light of the Realm in the live chat as well with a name that I won't read out. We're happy to have you with us. And Vanessa Law in the live chat.
Hello,
Thank you, Vanessa. Great to see you. We don't know where we'd be without Vanessa, do we? So that's Richard, and Gary's here too, the retro doc himself. And there's more and more lining up. We say garbage is in somewhere. I'm looking for you, garbage, but I can't find you.
Garbage
there's no crying
is there.
In Type 40, says Gary Akers. Matt, consider ourselves told.
No, we do it all inner. Crying.
Inner crying. Inner crying.
I did that during season 1.
Cheryl says, hello, everyone. I'm glad you're back and not a moment too soon.
Oh, hello, Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl.
Love to see you there.
Nicholas, he's made a note of the comeback time for Doctor Who, April the 12th at 8 a.m. on BBC iPlayer. Do you think it'll make effective breakfast viewing for anybody, John? I mean, it's weird because obviously it's better than midnight because most people will be awake unless you had a really big night. You might not be awake, but most people will be awake, and so they will watch it over breakfast, maybe, won't they? Or do you think people will hold off until the tea time?
I don't think so. I don't think people want to be put off their cornflakes at that time of morning, to be perfectly honest.
And can I ask, do you actually know what time it is on the day it's going to be broadcast on the BBC? Do you know?
Not yet, no. I think they did manage to hold the same general time slot last year, Charlotte. Can you remember? It was around 7 o'clock, wasn't it? 10
Yeah, I was going to say around either like 10 to or at 7 or something like that.
Yeah, they were quite good last year. It didn't move around like by an hour and a half like when Peter Capaldi was doing it. You never know when the bloody thing was going to be on. We've got Luke from Cinescope Pictures in the live chat too. Hello Luke. We're back on the show too. We're gonna drag him back on. I say drag. He's quite keen, bless him. So yeah, can't wait to catch up with you too, Luke. Great to see you there, and congratulations again on the success of the Hooligans. Please go and catch that on YouTube on the Cinescope Pictures channel if you haven't already. After you've watched this, of course, go and catch up with Rob Alexander.
David Millings has just said in the chat that the 12th of April is his first wedding anniversary. The 12th of April. First wedding anniversary. What a way to start the day by watching that. Happy anniversary, David. If we forget near the time,
I want a divorce.
Yeah, take my advice. Don't watch it for breakfast. Do something else for breakfast.
The Nerd Way is watching on YouTube and says, "I'm dreading it." You know, I did dread it during the previous era. I'm not dreading this, but as I say, I'm just in a really kind of null space with it. Never thought I'd feel this way about Doctor Who. It was worse than anger in some senses. Domgo's here in the live chat. What a brilliant icon, Domgo, with the Pertwee and Tom Baker spliced.
Nice.
It's a bit disturbing on closer inspection, but it's not.
And of course, it's sort of 50 years ago. It only just happened 50 years ago. That particular regeneration.
Changing of the guard.
Yeah, so it's very topical.
That's not a by-generation image, though, is it? I hope, you know.
Dirty words, John. Dirty words.
I've forgotten all about that. Domgo adds, there's no fanfare as there's nothing to fanfare about. I think it's a little too early for now anyway, to tell you the truth. I'm amazed they put out an actual trailer. And I think the trailer itself is pretty good. But then again, I think the trailers have all been pretty good. They're not a great indicator necessarily. Yeah, they're always really well put together, aren't they? And I think the production values look as high, if not higher, certainly on a level that they were at last year. And they're always going to put the best bits in there as well, aren't they? Yeah. So, you know, it is what it is. It's promotion, it's publicity. It's meant to do what it does. But Darren's not a fan of the pink logo either. They'll never live that down, will they?
They just couldn't help themselves, could they?
No. I was expecting a rainbow one, but I suppose they did that all in the Jodie Whittaker era.
Yeah, they've been there, done that with the old with the rainbows. Yeah. Peter Harrington has he spotted the Matt Smith look to that poster we were talking about a moment ago. So I think a lot of fans will have realised that. Oh yeah, and Vanessa Law says too that was on Matt's season 6 box set. That must have been the American box set, and that Russell T Davies is a Putz. Putz. That's a great name. Great name. Great word, Putz. Reminds you of Happy Days.
It reminds me of what's it, Beverly Hills Cop as well, isn't it? He says Putz in that one. Yeah, brilliant.
Zero Room comments that they like the red version. I like the red version, Zero Room. I really like the red version. I think that works really, really well. It's the pink one that doesn't work. So I agree with you, Zero Room.
Definitely not a purple patch, though, says Peter. Got predictions about the ratings in the live chat. I think we got to stay clear of the ratings for the sake of all our sanities. Jack adds that he feels that part of him feels that they're rushing the series out, and it makes me wonder why. I believe, as I understand it, that because the Disney deal is done, they're at the present they're out. They want to be out as sooner rather than later.
They've swallowed the laxative and it's on its way out.
we have a Big T in the live chat.
Hello, Big T.
Tony Farrell's there. Big T says, "Evening all. Surely this shows either the brand managers don't know what they're doing, or the brand managers are no longer in place." What an interesting thought. They did appoint a new brand manager, didn't they? About 18 months ago, a young guy.
Yes.
and I haven't seen sight nor sound of him since. Whereas the previous guy, is it Ed Thomas? He was ubiquitous, wasn't he? He used to be everywhere, omnipresent across the brand. But yeah, Tony might be onto something there.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of the social medias are run remotely now by outside contractors, and I think you can tell because of some of the stupid things they say and the fact that they block so many people. I mean, who'd have thought a BBC account for a show that's technically paid for, they'd have you believe it's paid for by the license fee when it suits them, would be blocking fans of the show? It just doesn't seem right to me. Lots more comments like that. We've got hello from Marine Boy.
Hello, Marine Boy.
Is that a cartoon from the 60s or the 70s?
I don't recognise.
Yes,
Marine
it is.
Boy.
It's an anime. Yep.
Pet Dolphin or something like that.
From Japan. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Stephen Bartles joined us watching over on X. Welcome back, guys. I have never anticipated a series of Who-less. Sad considering it's the last. Well, is it the last?
Who can say?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Stay tuned.
That's atrocious, says Kess the Drone. Who hires these numpties? Instagram and X at Type40 Doctor Who. Who hires who?
They're
the numpties
juniors.
are hired by numpties.
Who hires the numpties? Matthew
They're cheap.
Matthew Butterfield's asking, Dan, what do you know about cheap nightclubs? Everything, mate. Absolutely everything.
Don't get him started, Matthew.
It's not the cheap nightclubs, it's the cheap girls.
The scene of some of my biggest triumphs and steepest defeats these clubs were over the years. Thank you, everybody, for all the comments. We need some more of that, whether you are watching on Rumble, X, YouTube, or Facebook. We want it. If you're going to bring it, let's have it. And you can also have some of this too. Extra Type 40s, video exclusive content here on the channel there. These are just a few of the latest additions, including a deep dive catch-up with Philip Roy on Doctor Who Meets the Scorpion. There's myself, Charlotte, and who was on that with us? Was it Anthony we roped in for that?
Yes, it was Anthony.
Anthony and Luke, they were there on the review, and we had another little chat about that, didn't we? Of Joy to the World. There was myself, Simon, and Sarah. We did that commentary, didn't we, Simon?
We did.
For Robot Part 1. That was a lot of fun.
How much fun did we have on that?
Oh, too much fun. We nearly did the whole story, didn't we?
Oh, it was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed doing that.
And I was joined by Doctor Who and the Mid-Journey, or Doctor Who and the Computer Pages, as the account is now called over on X, for a deep dive into everything they do over on that account. Incredible AI Doctor Who artwork. And MJ came and filled in some gaps for me there on that. So there's Extra Type 40s, the Type 40 podcast too, across all major podcatchers. These are the three most recent additions, and there's more on the starting grid coming your way too. So make sure you have us, you're following us on the podcatcher of your choice, or over at type40.podbean.com. That's where you'll find our home feed. Just need to wet your whistle after all that. After all that alone. And we've barely started on what's been going on. My God, doesn't time fly? 50 minutes already. Look, our gratitude as ever for all the engagement and enthusiasm for everything that we're doing here at Type 40 and Type 40 Live. 2025 will be another period of evolution for us. And so we're going to ask you to come with us yet again. Podcasts, videos, live streams, and everything else. We have a lot of fun doing this, and your feedback is an essential part of it. So please, keep it coming, everybody. Keep it coming. Okay. An old favourite, I think. It's great to be back. Still makes me laugh. Yeah, so whilst this isn't the first time that we've spoken in 2025, it is our season premiere, and the first since Doctor Who woke up from its sort of big Christmas, post-Christmas dinner nap, I suppose. But this year, when we all sort of woke up, it was to a bit of a klaxon blaring, wasn't it? And the tabloids crying, exterminate, said the Sun. They went to print with a slim article that really made waves, declaring the series itself was to be cancelled, that its star had quit, that bosses are in disarray. Who'd have thought that? And that the writing is on the wall for the world's longest running and best loved sci-fi and fantasy TV series. I suppose you got to laugh, haven't you, Simon?
Oh, cry.
So yes, with the 20th anniversary of New Who about to be marked, and classic Doctor Who year on year seemingly more alive than either of its successors now, I think there's as much to talk about in the worlds of Doctor Who as ever, John. And collectively, as pundits, panelists, and mates, all of us, you know, there's a lot of ground that we can cover here as we try and predict what might be coming our way throughout the rest of 2025. Are you ready for the challenge, John? Have you been thinking about this?
I have. Bring it on. Bring it on. Here we go. Okay.
the history of Doctor Who. I say 3 productions in now, and you do think, well, after a while, you know, what goes around comes around, and really there are some things you think, is this a prediction or is it obvious? Because the popularity of stuff, Matt, it's natural that it sort of ebbs and flows, isn't it? Because nothing can stay at the top forever. I don't think you have to be Nostradamus to predict that what's really popular one year, go back to it 5 or 6 years later, and people, the general public, may not be quite so keen.
Yeah, I mean, you look at things like westerns. You know, westerns were very popular for about a decade, and then they slowly died off. And then you have, like, you know, you have even to the point of superhero movies. You know, they lasted a little bit longer, but in drips and drabs, and then all of a sudden for like 10 years, and then they pretty much fell off a cliff as well. So, you know, we're just trying, I think at the moment they're just trying to find something new to grab a hold of, you know.
Sounds like me in that nightclub back in the 90s. So I've asked our panel here to come up with some predictions about what they feel may be coming in 2025. This can be on screen in those 8 episodes, or indeed off screen. It could be in the expanded media or the realm of merchandise. As long as it's in the Whoniverse and the kind of thing that we cover here on Type 40 Live, then it's fair game. Who wants to go first, John Youlden?
Okay, so my predictions are the obvious one. I think it's going to be rested. I'm not saying cancelled. I'm saying rested. Okay. And my other one is
the series itself is going to be rested.
The series itself is going to be rested for a few years. I think that's coming. I really do.
What? Even with this gorgeous new pink logo? Are you insane, man?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? You know, it's almost like people outside of Pink News haven't sort of caught onto it. You know, and then the other one, I think for season 2, you're going to have Shooty, Rogue, and Jinx Monsoon love triangle.
Oh no!
Season 2. So I just thought I'd throw that one out there to just make everyone suffer.
Thanks for that.
So prepare yourselves. And to be honest with you, I say this in jest. I've said it in jest, but it would not surprise me one bit.
I've only got myself to blame,
So
Simon.
have you got anything positive, first. John?
No.
I do.
So, well, let's take John's first, because you were talking about that a moment ago about the series being rested. I mean, how long have you felt that way, or is this as a result of that story from the tabloids from 2 or 3 weeks ago, as of time of recording? Has that shaped your view in any way, or do you think that it's tomorrow's chip paper, even if it's digital chip paper, and you felt like this for a while?
To be honest, I've actually felt like this ever since Jodie Whittaker. To be honest with you, I've kind of felt as it's gone along, it's kind of been like death by 1,000 cuts, and I always had the mindset, sadly, that it was a question of when, not if. And certainly with the reception of season 1 for Shooty, I've I've definitely felt a lot stronger that it's going to be rested. And again, as you were saying on the last showdown, with like Disney pulling out of the deal, I do think it's going to be rested for a few more years. I just think there's, as much as that Mirror article came out, I just think there's patterns and things sometimes in life. You can just get a vibe of things, and I just think this show is heading for being rested. Don't know what you guys think, but
it's sad to hear Doctor Who fans talk like that, isn't it, Simon? But
I would agree. I would agree. I'm not going to make either of my predictions, simply because it is the obvious one. We'll all end up making it. But you are spot on, John. One of my predictions would be, I think it undoubtedly will be rested. I think I will be amazed if in 12 months' time we're not sitting here and it's rested. So I would go out on a limb and say you're spot on, John. I think it won't be cancelled. It will never be cancelled. There will never be an announcement like there was in 1985. I don't believe. Where it's being cancelled. That will not happen. But it will be just rested.
And the love triangle.
I'm going to. That's all your own work. That is, John. You're welcome to that one, mate.
That's your nightmare fuel. We don't need it as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Welcome to my mind, everybody.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's terrifying, but it's possible, Charlotte. It's the realization that idea is so awful, skin-crawlingly awful. Yeah, but it'll probably happen.
And I think another reason why I also think there's a really high chance it's going to get arrested as well is there isn't an easy producer to go to like we've always had with Russell coming back, with Chibnall, with Moffat. The BBC's always had somebody in the clique that they can go to when they need a showrunner. And I think Russell coming back and making a hash of it is actually going to make them realise we need to go outside of what we call in fandom the Fitzroy Tavern crew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that takes time and it's not easy and you have to actually search a bit and put a bit of effort if you're looking outside of your friends who's going to run the show.
Well, also, Charlotte, of course, it probably will have rattled the confidence of the BBC somewhat because they felt 100% guaranteed they were onto a surefire hit by bringing back Russell T Davies and then even bringing back Tennant and Tate to just consolidate what was guaranteed success for them. Because that hasn't happened, they must be rattled now of thinking, who do we go to?
Exactly.
We can't, you're quite right, we can't go to any more of the fans or that were working on it previously or have expressed interest. I think you're right. I think they will look further afield. So that is, you're quite right.
I was wondering, Simon, because what Charlotte's just said about the Fitzroy Tavern lot, and this is nothing against those.
No, nothing at all.
Yeah, I think they're all.
I know many of them, and they're great.
Stephen Moffat, Rob Sheehan, all these people, great writers.
Yeah,
in and outside of Doctor Who, and yet how can they have? I mean, not so much poor Rob. We've all heard the
has its time.
Rob's blessed with integrity, but in all seriousness, though, that's the thing. You'd think that was 2 decades ago. Those guys, that group of people, got their ambition and they got their hands on the keys to this kingdom, if you like, and to let loose their creativity. And they were I think they were the right people at the right time. But you would think, in the 2 full decades since, just as Charlotte's saying, there have been other writers that have come, but they're not. None of them are anywhere near Doctor Who. They've all. I mean, I'd like to think that a lot of them are still like Jamie Matheson and people like that are still doing good stuff somewhere. But most of them, I haven't heard of them since.
And I said from day one, when Russell T Davies came back, I said
they've been pushed away. Were they too good?
Well, it needs non-fans to be running this show. It is as simple as that. You need people who are not as close to the show, who don't feel as precious about it. I think John Nathan Turner, to begin with, got it right because he wasn't so close to the show that he could stand back at a distance and decide what was the right thing for the show. He then used other people such as Ian Levine to actually give him the information that he needed to help him make some decisions. Again, some would argue rightly or wrongly that worked, and on some occasions, and on others it didn't. But I think that he for all of John Nathan Turner's faults, he was a true television professional. Again, whether you liked his style, what he did is up for debate. But what isn't up for debate is he was a professional, and he went out of his way to make the best series he possibly could. And he wasn't really a fan. He became a fan, but he wasn't really a fan at the time he took over. He just happened to have worked on it, and that's why I think now it just desperately needs somebody who's not a fan, who can come with a fresh perspective and actually be a little bit harsh and say, no, this isn't good enough, it isn't working, I'm kicking it out and I'm starting again, and we're starting from the ground up on an entirely different slant. Because
you're right, because some of the calls that J&T made in 1980, they didn't make for good. The press were vicious with him, weren't they? Like, how dare he get rid of K9? How dare he do this? How dare he do that? But all the things he did, the majority of the things he did worked, and it went from strength to strength. And okay, as I say, certainly in the latter half of the J&T era, I feel he went off. He lost his way, and he got, as I say, if anything, he fell in love with the show a little bit too much. But in those first 3 years in particular, he was very hard-nosed. He was making, you had to be hard-nosed to be prepared to kick out Tom Baker. That was a really brave decision. He was not unafraid to make those brave decisions. Do you think there's a big contrast here, isn't there? And I want to know what you think about this, Matt. There's a big contrast. I think in the here and now, in the age of sort of multimedia and streaming, and everybody's got these like amazing publicists and platforms and things like that. And we're used to these people taking hold of franchises or being at the center of something creatively and being kind of framed as a visionary. And that's all well and good, and that can be very productive, and it can even catch and surf a wave of public popularity, I suppose, a fever, if it's timed right. But it would be just as effective to simply do what Simon's suggesting and cast somebody who's maybe technically proficient or just a great business person, who could just come and make some really cold calls and really shake things up. Not every show needs to be led by a visionary.
Yeah. No, you go, Charlotte.
I was going to say, or something that we've all been kicking around whenever we've had these discussions. Don't just have one showrunner that's your be all and the end all. That maybe also needs to go at this point, and have a team of producers or a couple of high-level producers or a script editor, and then you're technically your showrunner. I think that's the issue. New Who especially, it's really tunneled or funneled down this idea of one person controls everything, one person's vision controls everything, and that wasn't the case in Classic. And you could see how well it worked because you had a team working on Classic versus one person. And
Charlotte, just because something works for a time, it could be a long period of time, doesn't mean that it's always going to work. I suppose it's like, I'm not into football. I don't do sport like that. But I do know that if in a football match, John, if something's not working, then the manager will change the formation of the players on the squad to try and get the result that they want. I mean, maybe there'd be something like that.
But also, Dan, going one step further than that, also managers often disappear very abruptly. They are either kicked out or they leave because they're not delivering the goods. They're not actually up to the job. They're not able to do for the squad, for the team, what is required. And I would argue that that's what is required for Doctor Who now. It needs to make that brave decision for a clean sweep. Everybody at this point, I think, needs to go. And I don't say that remotely maliciously. I say it purely from the point of view that Doctor Who just desperately needs a clean slate now.
Makes common sense to say, including Peter Harrington's choice for the Doctor, Bobby Davro, for the Doctor. He says, is Bobby still around? I thought he might have retired now, be off in the sun somewhere. With Russ Abbott and Cliff Richard and all them.
But, contrasting back, you were talking a couple of minutes ago about John Nathan Turner. And John Nathan Turner, on record, he was a gay man, but he didn't look to alter the essence of what Doctor Who was. He respected what Doctor Who was, and he was he defended that to the hilt, which I'll always respect. And he also, as we know famously, he took grief from talk shows on the BBC about how it wasn't very good, the stories weren't great. He fronted that up. You've currently got a current era of production team who are so focused on their ideology, unfortunately, they can't see good stories. You could have a fantastic writer that would want to write for Doctor Who, but because he doesn't have the same, or they don't have the same viewpoint as them, they're not going to get in there to write for Doctor Who. And that's such a shame. And to go back to the football analogy, I would say the situation you've got now is kind of like with Russell T Davies. You've kind of got like a Sir Alex Ferguson at Manchester United, who had previously won quite a lot of stuff, and he was almost immortalised at the club. And it's very difficult to get them out and get rid of them, and their connection and their links within the club once things don't start going very well. And I think, and that's why you need to rest it for a few years, as Charlotte was saying, because to prize, you haven't got to just get rid of Russell T Davies. You've got to get rid of the people connected with him. But of course, you need to leave it a few years because he's got his fingers in a lot of pies with Doctor Who and the connections around it. So it's a very difficult purge to move forward.
I can honestly see a juxtapose between this era and what happened in the mid 80s now. And I have this is one of my hypotheses, and I guess you could say it's a prediction, that it'll probably go on hiatus for at least 18 months, if not more. And I think that they're going to go ahead and do something of a pilot for a new series just to try it out. Because obviously the BBC doesn't have no money whatsoever.
A new version of Doctor Who, or a new fantasy style show?
No. For Doctor Who, I mean, you've already got this great IP. Doctor Who was one of the greatest IPs they've ever had, if not the greatest, right? You can't just throw that away and try and start something new. And I don't think the BBC has the balls to try anything new at the moment because they're scared of the reaction. I mean, look at Doctor Who. They tried something completely different, but they've used Doctor Who as the name. And so it didn't work. But they shopped it around. They had shopped it around. So obviously, Disney had taken up the thing and they went, "Oh, you ripper," But obviously that's all fallen by the wayside. So what I'm thinking is that they will do what will be virtually a restart and a reboot, but I think it'll be a pilot. It'll work as a pilot. So they'll say it's like a telemovie or something like that, with a new Doctor and all this. And then they'll see the reaction. And if the reaction is,
we're back in 1996 again. Never mind 1989.
This is what I think that's what I'm saying. I think it'll be a juxtapose. I think it's just gonna repeat. History's gonna repeat, and I think that they're gonna go. And look, the fact of the matter is, they have to go back to basics. They've got to have, whether you like it or not, they've got to have a white Doctor, male. They've got to have a companion, right? A female companion, okay? They have to start from scratch. They can't have all this baggage. They have to get rid of everything. And it pains me to say this, but they just have to get rid of everything. The brand is really, really damaged.
It's become calcified as we've been following this at a time when it was supposed to burst burst back into life. I mean, this story really did gather a great amount of momentum in and
Made it
out
over here
of the geek press. It was absolutely everywhere, so much so that within 12 hours, the BBC had issued this statement to initially the Mirror, wasn't it? And they said this story is incorrect. So the story that Doctor Who had been axed and was cancelled, this story is incorrect. Doctor Who has not been shelved. As we have previously stated, the decision on season 3 will be made after season 2 airs. The deal with Disney Plus was for 26 episodes, and exactly half of those have still to transmit. And as for the rest, we never comment on the Doctor and future storylines. So that was their statement directly after. Let's move on slightly. Was that one of your predictions, Matt, or have you got 2 other ones in the barrel?
I have
ready to
another.
fire our way?
I have another one, but that was one of my predictions.
Go on, then. Let's have it. Go on.
Season 21 is coming out on Blu-ray.
Season 21. Okay, so that's the final Peter Davison season.
Final Peter Davison series.
Yeah.
I've just got it in my bones that it's time for season 21 to
When
release.
was the last Davison set out? What was that?
Season 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the year before last year, so it was 23.
Yeah, just over a year ago.
And I don't see a Tom Baker anytime soon. Definitely don't see another. I honestly don't think that I don't see a Patrick Troughton one anytime soon, and I definitely don't see another William Hartnell anytime soon. I don't think it did as well. The William Hartnell one, I could be wrong.
No, the William Hartnell one I think did well actually, Matt.
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it sold
I think
out
they've all
quite
done
well.
well, to be fair. So
it's the McCoy ones I think have done the least well, but generally they've all done well.
How
Just
many
seem to be
seasons?
slow on the uptake for that.
How many seasons are yet to be released of the classic series, Simon? Is it about 10?
We're well over halfway through. I mean, we're like about two-thirds of the way through now. I think Matt makes a good call. I think season 21 stands a really good chance of being released. Beyond that, I can't imagine what would the next one be. I think season 13. I think they'll hold on to for a while in the hope that they can do the Scarrison better in Terror of the Zygons, and I think they might well do the same with Trial of a Time Lord for the same reason with Kroll. I think they might just hold on for a little while with both those. So season 21 seems the most logical one to me for the next announcement. I would agree with Matt.
It's hard to believe. So the range has been going for about 7 years, isn't it? So it is filling up. My shelf is filling up with these things. Obviously, a new set about to be released in just a couple of days' time. I buy them all anyway. I don't really do the whole kind of which set will be next thing. It makes no real difference to me.
No, I agree.
I understand why people get excited. I understand why people sort of try and predict Simon. It's part of the fun, isn't it?
Of course it is. But I must be honest, it doesn't really worry me too much simply because we know that they're all going to come out at some point. Who knows what on earth they'll do with the Troughton and some of the Hartnell stuff. Whether that will be years before it comes out, I don't know. But they will come out. The colour ones will certainly all be out within the next 3 or 4 years. So it doesn't really worry me too much.
Some intensive work going on. I mean, Charlotte, I've said several times now the last couple of years, I think the classic series is more alive than ever. Obviously, you don't have to buy it on disc. There's the streaming options as well on the iPlayer through the Whoniverse app. I mean, we know there's a few stories that aren't available anymore now, but generally speaking, you can get classic Doctor Who on whichever device you watch your stuff on to suit the media that you're comfortable with, can't you? So, and that hasn't really changed, has it? But do you see what I mean about the scale and the profile of classic Doctor Who seems to be getting bigger year on year?
Well, yeah, I think weirdly, because modern Who has more and more tried to go back to classic in the storylines, and to be fair, usually change stuff in the classic and mess around with classic.
With Sutek last year.
Well, and we had The Timeless Child, and we've had other things. Like, it feels like all the showrunners of the modern one in some way seem to want to mess a bit. So I think it's had that reaction of, okay, you're going to change stuff. I'm actually going to go and watch the original. I'm actually going to go back and watch what you're messing with. And then people are discovering it and falling in love with it, like you said. like people my age and younger who sort of, it's their first sort of viewing sometimes of these stories. So it's new Doctor Who. That's what I think people forget. It might be classic, but if it's your first time watching a story, it's your first time watching a story. So people always, if they're Doctor Who fans, go back in some way and watch, I think.
Do you think it's deliberate? Because surely they'd want more eyes on the brand new stuff, John. But
yeah, I don't think it's deliberate. I think it's I think it's from, you know, the marketing people are realizing that the classic, what they call the classic era, is the money making era. You know, those collection sets, every time they come out, they're in the top 10 every single time, aren't they, on the online stores?
I understand.
I mean, I'm really looking forward to season 7. I got an alert yesterday that it's on its way, and I'm giddy as a schoolboy, you know. And it's just, you know, I think for me, and it's such a sad thing for me to say about, we were talking a few minutes ago about how I feel about kind of Doctor Who now, that I have no love for it. And I think when I watch those classic sets, whichever era of it, I can't put my finger on specifically what it is, but I know I'm watching Doctor Who, and it puts a great big smile on my face. You know, I'm so happy with it. Whereas where we are now, it just doesn't feel like Doctor Who at all to me. So give me these box sets. They are wonderful. We are absolutely spoiled to be getting these anyway. They're a joy. And I hope more and more younger people start getting them and seeing them, because this is Doctor Who, everybody. You know, kids, check it out. It's fantastic.
Build your library. That's what the press blurbs have always said to this range, isn't it, Matt? You know, it's always, they've always sold it on the idea that it's a really expensive, lavish part work. Build your library of Doctor Who on Blu-ray.
Yeah. And then I think that they're going to have a bit of a rest this year. I think there'll be just season 21, and then that'll be it for the rest of the year. I don't think that there'll be any till the new year next year. I think that they're going to.
There was a pattern. At one time, Matt, there was a pattern whereby one set would come out. So we're waiting on this set about to be released now. So one set would come out, and then within usually a week or 10 days, thered be some confirmation of what the next set would be. But that hasn't happened so much the last 18 months, has it? It seems to be a bit more,
except for a leak. Except for a leak very early on for this latest season coming out now, which, you know, they were pretty much, their hands was forced, wasn't it? It was pretty bad. They didn't even have a trailer for a little while.
I hope you're right, because I want season 21 as soon as possible. A lot of my favourite stories are part of season 21, but I think it's been a while since there was a Tom Baker season, so I'm starting to wonder.
I don't know. I think the last one was the Layla. What was it? The
season 13.
Oh yeah, that was a year ago. You're right. Yeah,
that was about a year ago.
Yeah, that was earlier on in the year. So
it doesn't help that the standard editions. Well, I suppose if you prefer to buy those, then it does help. But the fact now that there's those sort of dual release patterns, Simon, it's effectively 2 lines in one. Has changed things a little, hasn't it? But it hasn't necessarily dented the sales. I mean, there are some people who buy both versions.
Yeah, it could be. I have certainly stopped buying the limited edition versions now, and I'm just sticking with the standards. So yeah, go on, Matt.
No, I also think that this is maybe controversial, but I think the Hooniverse is dead. I think they're not going to be pushing the Hooniverse as much this year now. They've got this other thing coming out whenever. What is it, Land in the Sea or something? Yeah. You know, and I that's just going to be pushed out. So I just feel that the Hooniverse has failed miserably along with the show itself, and I think that's it's going to disappear. It's going to dissipate.
As a streaming hub, or do you mean that the logo itself will kind of?
I think as a streaming hub as well.
Okay,
I think you're right, Matt. I agree with you on that. Yeah, 100%. It's gone, isn't it?
Interesting. Yeah. Was this one of your predictions, Matt?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, because this is one of mine as well. I think you're absolutely right.
Because I didn't know if that went under hiatus then. Because
no, because the Who, there's no reason why, for example, the streaming hub shouldn't exist, even if there's no new Doctor Who in production. That should still carry on as a home for all of Doctor Who from start to finish. But I have had this creeping sense lately, Charlotte, that as every time a Doctor Who production is on, that fanfare at the start, like, for example, the Royal Albert Hall thing, that fanfare gets a little shorter. You don't see any publicity for Whoniverse at all. It's on none. It should be on all of the tie-in books. For example, those books, those like Robin Hood and the things that you had. Whoniverse is the Whoniverse logo anywhere on that?
No, and it's not even mentioned as like check out the Whoniverse anywhere.
It should be. I mean, when the VHS tapes were coming out, for example, Matt, you'd get a little leaflet would pop out about what else was available, and it wasn't just what other VHS tapes were available. They'd say, "Oh, this is out on CD or cassette. This new book's out," and it would be under sort of BBC. What was it called back then? BBC Radio Collection, and they've got little, quite quaint brands then, hadn't they? But they'd all get sort of put together, and you'd be, and you'd see what would take your fancy. And to me, like Charlotte's books, it's a prime example. The Whoniverse should be there somewhere. This is why I think you're right. I think this was one of my predictions too. I'm sad to I'm sad. Well, this happens. It happened the last time we did it. I'm sad to say, just with my branding hat on, I think what we're seeing now, despite the fancy fanfare and the really nicely pointed logo, this isn't taking. They're doing nothing with it. I think that it just seems like they had an idea for a buzzword and a hashtag and didn't really know what they were going to do outside of it.
I suspect that what happened here is when they launched the Whoniverse, if you remember, it was just before the return of the Russell T Davies second era. And so I think it was launched again on the absolute surefire assumption that the new version of Doctor Who was just going to be huge, just as it was back in the David Tennant days. I don't think that anybody was in any doubt that was what was going to happen. And so as a result, at that point, the Whoniverse made complete sense, because what they'd done is they'd put it all out there. Then they knew that they were going to launch this new, improved Russell T Davies version of the mainstream show, and as a result of it just going absolutely stratospherically popular, everybody would want to go and find the old stuff in the Whoniverse. And so I think what would have happened, the reason we're not really seeing much of an explosion of an exploitation of the Whoniverse, is because the main mother show has not taken off in the way that they thought it would. And so as a result, the Whoniverse is kind of to a large extent redundant, simply because the people who are actually invested in Doctor Who are going out and buying the Blu-ray box sets.
Yeah.
And so the Whoniverse is just largely redundant because of the fact that the main show, the parent show, is not delivered.
Having everything in one place in that way is, again, it's very seductive. It must have been a hell of a challenge. But they don't seem to have concentrated down their efforts on it, Charlotte, to make sure that it...
Well, that's what I was going to say. The problem is you've had it... We're now getting to 3 years at least of at least this production being here and making Doctor Who in some way and having the reins and having the control. And it's taken that long to get one spin-off show broadcast. You need to be quick if you want multiple spin-offs. You need to have like a factory line almost set up that you can have all these productions going at once, so you can very quickly go from
and there's no
the main
way
show.
There is no way they can concentrate efforts on growing it in that sense if they're actively looking for another global streaming platform with Disney Plus out of the picture. You've got to sort of take a few steps back, haven't you? In a way that Matt was saying, Charlotte.
Yeah, it's this idea of Russell had these big grandiose plans. He had probably loads of ideas for spin-offs, but it's just taken so long for him to get any TV out and we've said this as well, you would have thought at times this was a new production team, but this is old hands. And
where are the games? Where's the interactive stuff? Why isn't it all sort of channeling back into that Hooniverse brand? They got something called Lost in Time, like a mobile game that's actually, well, I don't know if it's doing very well, but they're certainly pumping a lot of creativity into it. It seems quite high profile-ish, and yet that's not branded anything to do with the Hooniverse at all. It's as if it's the same old story of the left hand not knowing what the right hand's doing. Who'd have thought that?
It's the same with I put it in the same bracket as where they did the colorizations of the war games and everything. And I've said before, don't get me wrong, the technical people who did colorizations is brilliant, but this is another example of running before you can walk. And my view was right from the beginning, don't focus on colorizing stories we've currently got. Make sure the animations, if you're going to do them, are the best animations possible to put out for people to purchase, because people will buy them without a shadow of a doubt. And
don't use them as experiments either.
Exactly that. And I think you're right about the iPlayer. I mean, the iPlayer, when it first happened, I thought to myself, I don't think this is going to work. And the reason I was coming at that viewpoint was because the streaming services in the US who have got a subscription service, they are in financial trouble with their apps, and they have been since they launched them. They're not making profit on it. So going through that model that they've gone through was always going to be a short-term thing. And you guys probably know more than me, but haven't they got to renegotiate the licenses with certain writers of the stories again soon? Is that correct?
Classic.
So
writers,
yeah. So again, when you're talking about the money's dried up because Disney are going to walk away, and you're right, Dan, you're talking about Amazon and others and negotiating with them. You haven't got the money to pay these writers for classic stories. So it is going to disappear. And it's just, I don't know anybody. I mean, I'm biased. I always go for the discs anyway, but I don't know anyone I know that is a Doctor Who viewer that has gone to the iPlayer.
I hate to say it, but Hooniverse should be on those Blu-ray box sets as well.
Yes.
Even if it's just a sticker that was completely removable, obviously it should be there.
They have the intro at the beginning of the classic, the new ones, like the Celestial Toymaker, and that they do use that awful trailer with Shooty crying at the beginning. And it's just it kind of kills the momentum of actually watching it.
Richard Brooks says Hoony worse in the live chat. We've got
I just have this imagination. If you've seen this.
Yeah, Pure Historical says the Hooniverse is already dead, and what we have is a zombie.
I just have this imagination because they did actually have a special room for the Hooniverse at the Bad Wolf Studios, and I just imagine because they had a photo of
wall. There was a wall
shooting, yeah, and I could just imagine them painting it over now.
They've replaced Shooty with Beat the Meep or something.
I would never complain at people having more options to see classic Doctor Who. Or just old Doctor Who, stuff from even the noughties on the move. But the restoration of the BBC's own classic Doctor Who YouTube channel, that was a surprise. We covered that late last year. And they're also going all in on these as well. These are happening pretty much every week. Official BBC live streams of sort of top moments themed around monsters or events or regenerations or years, time, anything loosely themed sort of 3-hour presentations of classic material. They seem very keen on pumping this stuff out. So maybe
not worldwide, I can tell you that. The strange thing is,
everywhere.
No, it's not. And the thing is, it's really, really annoying. It's not available in my country.
Neither is the Hooniverse, I suppose, to be fair.
No, it's not. But what I mean is, you have things like Century 21 who do all the Jerry Anderson shows. They're all live to stream. You can watch them continuously. Same with a lot of things from the Shout Factory and that. This is from the UK. Those. There's a lot of that stuff, and you can just live stream it and just keep it going. You can watch the entire season runs of Farscape and all those science fiction shows, just leave it running. Buck Rogers, all this sort of stuff. Alf, for goodness sake.
I've seen those.
Just yeah,
they also drop episodes of shows like The Real Ghostbusters one a week at a very particular time. I mean, who do you imagine is watching this? Do you watch these, Charlotte? Do you ever stream these, even for curiosity?
I've seen them come up on a feed. I've never watched them because to me,
Same.
I don't want to watch something that curated. Somebody's picked the clip. Somebody's picked what to show. I'd rather just watch the episodes myself. That's what I've always thought about these things.
That's exactly how I feel about it. But I do wonder, obviously, people watching on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, X, if you've seen any of these live streams, if you've had an entire night sort of sitting there watching one, or maybe you watch it on the bus to and from work. I don't know if you've been able to fit these into your life. Somebody must be watching them because they keep doing them. And yet again, they've really screwed up that typography, Matt. My God, check that out. That's more official Doctor Who imagery. Extraordinary.
It's not the great.
They need to go to font class.
Yeah. It's not the greatest title in the current predicament with all of the rumours swirling around either, is it?
No.
I think, I think BBC, the weird thing is BBC are gatekeepers with Doctor Who. And they just need be a little bit. That they seem to be giving the.
They don't
being a little bit
the things that they should, though.
Yeah, they're being a little bit too frivolous with giving it to their people who think they can handle it, rather than trying to share it with the world. You know what I mean? God, how many seasons?
They never get it right. They're proprietorial about stuff that people don't give a shit about. And it's the other way with stuff that's of genuine value or of cultural significance that should be conserved and respected.
I mean, I think this is whether they'd admit it or not. This is, for me, is also a subtle way of them to effectively saying, our brand is damaged. We're doing a softly, come and look at Doctor Who. But to be honest with you, when I was talking a few minutes back about, a hiatus and, we were talking about it not being on the air, what I would do to resurrect the love for Doctor Who if it was off air, if I was the BBC and I had a brain in my head, I would literally be going, right, okay, let's put on some classic stories on at a certain time on a weekly basis to get
BBC
people interested in it. See what happens. Similar to what they did in the 80s, Five Faces sort of thing. Just pick out some crackers, that sort of stuff. That will build things back up.
I think BBC is still in the mode that this is a shit series that's, and not aged well. You know what I mean?
I've never understood it, when it's successful or whether it's failing. They've never understood it. They've never respected it. And more often than not, they want rid of it, whether it's working or not. And I don't blame Dwayne here in the live chat. Anybody who feels this way now, when you see stories disappear from the Whoniverse for whatever reason, you're going to think to yourself, well, it's not complete anymore. They sold this in a sense. They promoted this on the idea that it was complete. Now it's just a case of, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. It's like, which one's going to be the next one to disappear next? How many are going to be still swimming?
I think the BBC are embarrassed by this series, by the past series. But we're embarrassed with this new series.
I can't imagine why. Let's move on slightly.
Humping dogs, dear me.
A little about my second prediction, because I double up with Matt there on that one. Yeah, I think the Whoniverse is sadly toast. It's a fine idea in principle, but that was when we were somewhere, a place that we are not at now. So they can't. They simply can't. My other prediction, though, is that despite the fact that we have had silence, we haven't had denials, we've had silence. I believe that as part of season 2, we will be seeing the Daleks on screen, back against the 15th Doctor there on the telly on a Saturday night, probably for the 2-part season finale. I think the Daleks are going to be back this season. I can't think Now, this is my upbeat one. Well, that's always my negative one. This is my upbeat one because I'm choosing to think, it stands to reason. You can't possibly bring back a show like Doctor Who with a huge relaunch, with an inflated budget, and not over 2 series and what will amount to about 2.5 years worth of screen time, not bring back the Daleks 2, that most recognizable of big villain. Doctor Who and the Daleks go hand in hand. I've got to believe that they can't have been so bloody stupid as to not do this, Simon. Doctor Who and the Daleks has to happen. And by the sounds of it, if it doesn't happen for Shooty Gatwa now, this time it never will anyway. So
running out of time. Well,
the thing is, Doctor Who needs the Daleks. It needs needs them to be back on screen. Otherwise, they are fucked. They really are.
It is funny, because of course, both Barry Letts and Philip Hinchcliffe sort of took the same approach that Russell T Davies took. So it's a perfectly legitimate approach to take. Both Letts and Hinchcliffe tried to avoid using the Daleks. They tried to move on and say, look, Doctor Who is more than the Daleks, which of course it is. But I think the thing is with the Daleks, it's not so much a case of kind of giving in and admitting that Doctor Who needs the Daleks so much as it's just a bit like a sort of having fish and chips without salt and vinegar on top.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, the Daleks are part of Doctor Who.
And surely any business partner is going to look at the property and think, you're going to have the Daleks back, right? You are going to have it's going to be in the boardroom, isn't it?
And of course, that discussion went on back in 2004 when the show was coming back. And at one point, we were that close to not getting the Daleks back because it looked like the copyright clearances could not be sorted out. And so they were out for a while. They were out, and everybody was like, we can't bring back Doctor Who without the Daleks. So I do think you just have to sort of give in and just lean into it. Daleks are part of Doctor Who. So, and we know that it's laughable from the point of view of how many times have the Daleks been in and been defeated. We know that it's something of a joke, but that is part of Doctor Who. That's part of what makes Doctor Who fun. And we all did. I think secretly we were all thinking that the Daleks would make a surprise return at the end of Shooty Gatwa's first season, or maybe in the Christmas special. I think we were all thinking, no, actually, they will bring them back. So I would agree with you, Dan. I think this is a good call. I think the Daleks 100% will be back this year at some point, no doubt.
Ideally looking better than ever, sounding better than ever, and doing something maybe a little different. They've got to sort of make it, sort of change it up a little bit in the way that they did in 2004, 2005. No gold Daleks. We want to see Daleks look different and do something a little different as well. Give us some novelty of some description, something to get excited about. But yeah, I think the time is right. I think it was right last year, but the time it's desperately needed now. They need the Daleks. But I mean, is it just me? What do you think, John? Daleks shoe in? What do you think?
I think you're right. I think they are going to be there. I think that I would say they're going to do the Davros, the fully human, or Scar. I think so, because I think RTD with what he did in that Children Need, he's gonna, if he's bringing the Daleks back, he'll double down. And I think, am I right? I mean, I didn't pay too much attention to the trailer, but the trailer it looked like Skaro.
One of the cities looked Skaro like.
Yeah, did it? I missed that.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. RTD attempts his own version of Genesis of the Daleks or something along those lines in season 2. So I think you're going to be spot on with that, Dan. They're going to be there.
Yeah, and I think for me, especially with New Who Doctors, because of the sort of Time War history and what the Daleks represent, especially to that era of Doctor, you always get you usually get very interesting reactions, whether that's anger, sadness, sort of just be like you can get the whole sort of range of Doctor reactions by just putting him in a Dalek with him in a room usually. So I would be intrigued how this Doctor would react to a Dalek. because it should be some really good character stuff.
Well, he'll cry, won't he, Charlotte? He'll cry. Of course he'll cry. Of course he'll cry.
You could be
with
right.
The Dalek balls, I think.
I suspect we're going to see a lot of that. I mean, who'd have thought that in a major relaunch of Doctor Who, and as much as I enjoyed it, who'd have thought we'd get Melanie Bush back before the Daleks? I love Bonnie Langford. I love what they've done with Mel. I think she's been one of the true triumphs of all new Doctor Who. But where are the Daleks, Russell? What's going on?
Well, and Cybermen. I mean, if we're on that subject, where are the Cybermen?
One or the other. Yeah, they've got one or the other.
Yeah,
I reckon he'll be the John Pertwee of the new era.
He's running out of time.
He is definitely running out of time. Charlotte, what are your predictions then? What's been on your mind, for better or for worse? Where do you think it could go on or off screen?
I've sort of been thinking, how do I think Shooty's going to go? Like that's sort of been his
he's got him already out the door.
Well, yeah, because it's not been confirmed, but I do think we're going to see a regeneration. And my prediction, because Russell, the first time around, sort of would talk about how everybody knew when regenerations were coming, and like he couldn't hide them, and they couldn't have surprise. Okay. So my prediction is actually we're not going to get told what episode he's going to regenerate in. It's just going to be screened, and it's going to be as close as a surprise in a sense.
Could be in the first one.
God, do you think they do that? Do you think they do that? Because they would, by doing that, they would throw away the publicity that they can't resist heaping around that. That'd be really brave. I mean, I'd love to see them do that, Charlotte.
I suppose, Simon, no matter how much they publicise the show, nobody watches it anyway.
Well, here's the thing. I think because it's sort of the press is already sort of led for weeks now with Shooty's quit.
Yeah.
That's sort of actually good cover in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
That because people have sort of already got that in their heads, how they do it actually could sort of catch people out.
Were they bi-generating back into the Tennant's pee-pee like they did as he came out last time? Do you think that's on the cards?
That's a thought.
More than likely. Yeah, I could see it happening. They've got to reform at some point. They made a point of it in the first season, though, didn't they? What was it he said when he met up with Jinx Monsoon? He said something along the line, "Since I bi-generated, I'm not whole," or something like that. He said.
I don't think he can do a funny one because I don't think they know what's coming afterwards.
Not a funny one.
Well, a slow-mo of him going back in.
I think Tennant's had a hard enough few months as it is. The last thing he needs is, I'm not going to even say it. Obviously, the 14th Doctor is still out there. There's some papers, some cheap, trashy papers and silly websites have gone with the idea that David Tennant is sort of waiting in the wings to come back to the show in one form or another, either as another incarnation or as the 14th Doctor again or whatever. I can't see any basis for that. In fact, it just seems like a pretty safe bet, I suppose, at some point that sooner or later David Tennant will play Doctor Who again. I don't think that's a stretch, shall we say, whether the show's in actual production or not. But the idea that they could sort of bundle Shooty off like that and make it kind of sensational in the way that you described, Charlotte, I think it would be a feat and a half in the modern age. But if they're going to do it at any time, it probably would be now. In all sincerity, because the profile of the show is lower than a snake's belly button.
Of course, the room with all the rumors, his final words would be, "I want to go." So.
I'm done. I'm out. I'm done. I think it's possible, and like say, if it's something that they wanted to do before, it's probably niggled that they've never been able to manage it since. But,
like I said, half of it was just because Russell's comments. He talked about it.
Yeah, a lot. Now you mention it. You mentioned it a lot.
Mm.
I mean, he's still there, isn't he? I mean, for them in their own little get out of jail card and their own mindset, that's what I could see them doing, because in their bubble they still think that, you know, Tennant's a hot ticket. So and you know, he's still there in the canon of the show. He's having tea in the garden, isn't he? So you know, they could do it, but I don't
literally on gardening leave, John.
Yeah, it is, and I could see them doing it, but I don't think it will have the success they think it will have.
His ratings were only about 4 million, weren't they? They were pretty much like Shooty at Christmas time. They weren't the greatest ratings.
They were slightly up, but you're quite right.
Yeah.
They weren't massive.
No, and I think that's also going to cause cold feet.
Well, also I think having him back so soon after the last time, that's why I don't buy this rumor that's going around with Tennant. I just think there's not for me that would be the utter sign of we've given up. We've got no other ideas. Let's get Tennant back.
Well, also,
I don't like last time.
Tennant isn't going to want to go near it at the moment. He won't.
I wouldn't have thought so.
It didn't work well when he came back, as we just said at the end of.
He thinks it went brilliantly.
yeah.
He's never got a care in the world publicly, at least. You'd think he would.
I think he does. I mean, deep down, he knows that the viewing figures simply weren't what he was getting. He was getting 10 million when he was on first time.
He's not his heyday.
He only needs to look at the viewing figures. So I think it's very unlikely that he would want to come back at this moment in time. He knows that it didn't really work that well last time.
Yeah, and so my second one is we've talked about the collection. And I think, honestly, the last 2 eras, the collection box sets have probably been the biggest success stories for Who as a brand, as sort of keeping momentum and keeping excitement.
Yeah.
So my prediction is that I think we're going to get our first new Who sort of an entry into the collection.
Interesting.
Because I think some of New Who is starting to sort of feel nostalgic now.
Yeah,
it's starting to feel almost classic in that
it's
sense.
20 years old.
I would pay a fortune for the Eccleston version because I'd love to see the
commentaries. This director was a right wanker and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, I think we all would that announcement if it was to happen.
Eccleston behind the sofa with Julie Gardner, Russell T Davies, and Jane Franco.
Simon,
I ain't sitting in the middle.
We've had.
I think you're beep beep beep.
We've had several people. We've had several people from the Blu-ray range on the podcast. A couple of people on the live streams as well, I think, but on the podcast especially. And a couple of them have said, you know, this is out there publicly, that it's very much their kind of heart's desire, really, that the range does continue and that they do get to produce further sets in this range for new Who, for everything from 2005 onwards. Charlotte could be onto something. It's what they want to do, isn't it? But whether, obviously, Blu-ray, the death of Blu-ray is greatly exaggerated. It's still definitely a thing, particularly in a collector's market, but it can't carry on forever. Maybe, just as Charlotte said, in between some of those black and white seasons, which are going to be quite labour intensive, perhaps putting out a Series 1 set might not be a bad idea.
They did.
Yeah, I think
not long ago.
I think Charlotte could be onto something here. I have to be honest. I think what they would do, though, in all honesty, I'm not in any doubt at all, they would start with the first Tennant series rather than the Eccleston series. I think Charlotte. I mean, it's an interesting thought. I'd never really thought about it before. I'd always assumed that they would start 21st century Doctor Who Blu-ray box sets once they'd finished the classic collection. But it's an interesting idea, Charlotte, that it's quite logical that why wouldn't they do one? Why wouldn't they start to filter them in now and start to dovetail them across? And as you say, Dan.
Oh yeah, and I was thinking, just because of how Russell and his crew is now, for me the logical thing would be a Moffat Doctor. So, and I was thinking, imagine if they got Peter Capaldi down to do a sit-down interview, like those big four.
Oh
interviews.
yeah. Can you
love that?
that would really get fandom talking if you got him to do a proper how he felt through the years, sort of his history, his story.
Or Matt.
Yeah.
If you were to do a chat with Matt.
Neither of them have really spoken at any great length, have they, since they were playing the part about Doctor Who any terms. I mean, they do bits here and there, but they never go into depth about their own experience. They're quite loyal to the brand, Simon, but that's a different thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, here's the thought, isn't it? Because the Eccleston box set theoretically would have the big 1.25 hour interview with Christopher Eccleston in. Wow. I mean, what can you talk about in that, short of actually saying, sorry, can you finally come clean? Why did you leave? I mean, the thought of a tentpole interview with Eccleston, the definitive last word on the subject from Eccleston is mouth-watering. That would be brilliant to get that.
Walter A is watching on YouTube and says, I would like to hear more about those two. They wanted nothing to do with the recent trash. That's from Walter A on YouTube. Kester Drone says season 1 is the best New Who in their opinion.
Yeah, I would agree, Kess, actually. I would.
But Liven's Flame won't buy them again, Matt. Go on, carry on.
No, I'm sorry. They did re-release the Eccleston and Tennant in a box set recently, in the last year or so. And they had it. They did upscale it, I believe. It was because it was pretty bad the first time around. So they made it so whether or not they could do it a third time.
Well, yeah, but they didn't. What they didn't do, Matt, was they didn't do the collection. On it, which is what Charlotte's suggesting, where you get the kind of extras that are on the collection box.
Yeah, it would be the extras that would be the buy, though, is what I'm saying.
Philip Roy says, does anyone truly believe there's no deleted scenes from Eccleston's series? Whatever Russell T. Davies says, someone has backed them up. I mean, we know for a fact. Can we say this? We know for a fact. We've been told there are. Because a lot of those episodes, they overran. Some of them underran, but a lot of them did overrun. So
can I have outtakes? That'd be fantastic.
Nice. Sorry, Charlotte, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, and I think the thing is, in America, I know they've done some of these big glossy, like Blu-ray Doctor sets, but they're American only. And I feel like in Britain, we haven't had that sort of lavish, the collection treatment for New Who. And I just think there's so many interesting people you could talk to who haven't either talked a lot or haven't in years connected.
Billy Piper again.
Yeah, and I just think that there's a lot of stuff to mine from New Who, and I just think it'd be a new market for them as well if they slightly expanded what the collection is. Still have the classic, but just dip the toe in and maybe do 1 or 2 New Who Doctors.
Is it that you miss Capaldi's Doctor, or is it Peter Capaldi himself, Charlotte, that you miss hearing from, and you feel that despite it being the relatively recent past, that it feels untapped and like a book that's been closed before its time?
Yeah, I think with Capaldi, definitely. I think with Matt, I don't feel that so much, but I just think, like you said, they've both kept respectfully distant, I would argue, from the brand, because they've gone on to do other things like actors do, and they've not come back to be their doctors again. They've not even done. I know Eccleston's doing Big Finish, but Capaldi hasn't. Matt hasn't. So I just think, and they're older, and I just think they would be fascinating people now, a little bit older, especially Matt. He's had so much more experiences and roles since Who. So to hear him sort of talk about his sort of process, I think would be fascinating.
I think Peter Capaldi's clearly very, very good with fans. You've seen there's umpteen pictures of him across social media, John, where people have sort of grabbed him at stage doors, for example, or at signings for his books or albums, the other things that he does. Always makes time for Doctor Who fans. He never tries to distance himself from it, but he hasn't said a great deal, or he hadn't said a great deal until this week when the BBC Radio spoke to him and they asked him about the current state of Doctor Who. But it's quite a novelty to hear Capaldi talk about any kind of Doctor Who, and he covers it in this really nice little piece. Check it out.
Doctor Who, what's its future, do you think, if it has one? Doctor Who always has a future. Doctor Who is the future. It's the past. It's always there. It always will be. You know, I sometimes, you know, there are new infusions of energy into it, which have to pass through the time and space continuum
Really brave
to be given the necessary excitement for the public. So it's just doing what it normally does, which is pulsing through the universe.
But does it need a new infusion of energy?
I don't think so. I think it's always going on. It's always happening. You know, there are different generations who get different things from it. I mean, I was brought up with the original Doctor Who, William Hartnell. You know,
God, that does date you a bit.
That does date me. You know, I'm a man in my 60s, so that's the show that inspired and informed my Doctor. But there are kids and young people around now who have been, you know, inspired by Chris Eccleston and Matt Smith and David Tennant and Jodie and Chuchi, and you know, so they will have their own take on the show. It's great. It's a wonderful thing. It keeps reinventing itself, which is fabulous.
Wasn't Chuchi one of the dogs in?
Oh, they have to say he has to say them all, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean that was great PR at the end of the day, wasn't it? You know, sorry, not PR, just evading.
Yeah, he was being very diplomatic.
He said bugger all.
He's not telling us to go touch grass if we don't like it.
He's a class act, isn't he? He really is. And
he's a gentleman,
I miss him.
is what he is.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I miss him as the Doctor, but again, you know, it's like night and day when you see what we've got now compared to what we had.
He was the last true ambassador. He was the last true ambassador this show had. And when I see dickheads on social media claiming that Jodie Whittaker was a standout ambassador for the show, and Ncuti Gatwa too, for that matter. I think he started fairly well, but his game has just disintegrated. It's ludicrous. Peter Capaldi was a superb and remains a superb ambassador for Doctor Who. He's not even playing the bloody part anymore. And if legend is true, he was royally shafted by it as well, just as Colin Baker was. Matt Smith remains a fantastic ambassador for the series as well, and so does Paul McGann to some degree, simply by his openness with the fandom and willingness to do all manner of brave things for an actor who's still very much in demand. But I agree, isn't it a novelty to hear Peter Capaldi speak, even though we know it's fluff? Charlotte, imagine if they got deeper, like you say, an hour with him. I love that idea. The more I think about it,
or just get him do some or commentaries. I'd love to listen to his commentary on some of his episodes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, you just want to hear more Peter Capaldi anyway, don't you? I mean, you can never get bored of hearing Peter Capaldi's voice. So yeah,
just talking about classic Doctor Who, I could listen to that for 3 hours.
Oh yeah, like behind the sofa, have him on his set, watch some classic Who that he grew up with. Like I think. And like with Matt, have him watch a Troughton, because he talked about how he watched Tomb of the Cybermen, and that's what sort of started his inspiration and his thoughts about his Doctor. So have him do one for Troughton.
A commentary track on Tomb of the Cybermen with Matt Smith and I was going to say David Tennant there. I've had enough of Tennant. Matt Smith and
Fraser Hines. No, Fraser. That'd be fun.
Yeah, or Wendy. Yeah. Oh no, Wendy wasn't in it, was she? No, because obviously she was his agent and everything, and it was Tennant that gave him the disc, wasn't it? He's stuck with David Tennant, aren't we? Don't like the sound of that. Oh dear. Simon, what are your predictions for the everything in the Whoniverse whilst it still exists? Anything that springs to mind? Anything tickling your fancy?
My first prediction is I don't think that there will be a colorized story this year. I think the War Games is probably the last colorized story we'll have for a while. I think that the excitement over that has died down, sadly, and it's such a shame because, as John said earlier on, the colorization was just breathtaking, just beautiful to watch. I think that they messed it up with the war games. With
That's all it could have been, was it?
Yeah, I think unfortunately they blew it. It didn't get that many viewers. I think it was the wrong choice of story. I still seriously question why they chose the war games. It was an illogical choice to pick unless they had other reasons why they wanted to do the war games. I think it was a bad choice, and the viewing figures reflect that. And so I think, and the fact that we haven't heard anything so far about anything else they're doing, I would guess that they're not going to be doing another story. Before I move on to the next prediction, I think dear old Charlotte, you're itching to go, aren't you, my dear?
It's 10 o'clock, so it's bedtime. So
no night, pumpkin. Night, Charlotte.
It's great to have you back. It wouldn't be the same without you. And yes, great predictions there as well. Hit us with some comments there about Charlotte's predictions. And yeah, we'll see you next time. We'll see you next week, Charlotte.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
So yeah,
we reviewed this, Simon. Several of us sort of came on directly after broadcast of the war games. And I believe that they are presently no longer working. As things stand, they're not working on anything, the team. I think that Rich Tipple has said that publicly, in fact.
Okay,
but then again, that was quite intensive work. As I understand it, they went directly from the Daleks in colour to the war game. So they haven't had a break from this stuff for probably the best part of 2 years. That doesn't necessarily mean there won't be more, but I suppose, in line with what I said about the Hooniverse brand earlier on, everything kind of diminishing and cloth being cut, it would make sense that was that for now.
I think if the war games had been a massive success, I think undoubtedly they would be looking at doing another colorization sooner rather than later, but it wasn't. And I think as a result, they'll get quietly dropped. And as I say, I do think it was down to the choice. Philip Roy says in the chat, and he's quite right, the Mind Robber would have been the obvious choice for colorization. Yeah, absolutely. Or the Tomb of the Cybermen would have been.
Tomb of the Cybermen. Oh my God,
that's what they should have been colorizing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It was,
and not cut.
That's what I'm saying. They wouldn't have had to cut either the Mind Robber or the Tomb of the Cybermen. They could have just done them complete without any editing, without any additional music, without any additional CGI effects. Just done them, just colorized them, and that's what it should have been. And unfortunately, I think they blew it. I'm afraid, with the war games. Sadly.
This was done purely. This one was chosen purely because it was a regeneration story.
I think
so. And they wanted to add the extra footage in for that, and they also wanted to do the War Chief Master question. Yeah,
correct.
That was it. No other reason.
It was an editorial indulgence rather than
exactly.
I think indulgence is the perfect word, Dan. I think it was. It was an indulgence.
If you're watching, Ben, hello.
I think they thought that they were being clever, which in one sense they were being clever. But was it successful? Well, that's open to debate, and it certainly didn't resonate with the.
It's divisive, judging by the reception in the live chat, and it's evident here. I don't think anybody wanted to hate it, but there are people that really did hate it, and there are people that are indifferent to it, and there are people that liked it. You know, I enjoyed my evening watching that, but I don't disagree with the bulk of what people have said.
But as I say, what has to be made clear is the colorization was just breathtakingly beautiful, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching the colorization. So it frustrates me that I think they blew it editorially, and that includes the editing and the music. That's what ruined it.
Did this eventually come out on physical media?
Yeah,
they've announced it's due out.
It still hasn't come out.
4 or 5
No, but that's not.
I thought it was just the reason why I mentioned that was because the Daleks one came out quite soon after.
I don't think it came out. I don't think it came out. It was 2 or 3 months. So
it wasn't out for Christmas, but I think it was out by now, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think it's about correct the length of time. I don't think there's anything to be read into.
I was just wondering whether or not they worry about sales, that sort of thing, Simon. With
waiting.
I
guess they're looking at the sales and they're realizing it's clearly not going to be as successful sales-wise as the Daleks was. That is in no doubt whatsoever.
The Tomb of the Cybermen would have been not rushing so much more sensible, Matt. I agree, and that's a popular choice in the live chat. I must admit, I'd heard that they were working on that, and maybe I got my hopes up a little. I love the War Games. The War Games I prefer the War Games as a story to Tomb of the Cybermen. But
we all love the War Games, but the Tomb of the Cybermen,
the way they
really
hacked
needs
it
to be cut.
It was just too ambitious because
it was ambitious.
Arrogance more than anything to think that you could actually do something that is loved like the War Games. That's 10 episodes, and think, do you know what? I'm a master craftsman. I can cut this one down and make it fantastic. That is an arrogance. On another level, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're right, John. And unfortunately, the only way that is going to work is if you give it to a very, very talented, fully professional editor. As I recall, I don't think that was quite who they booked for the job.
Yeah.
Who mentioned the Mind Robber? Philip Roy reminds us. Hang on, there's a guy called the Master in the Mind Robber. I wonder what the editorial guys would do with that.
Lord above, what an awful thought.
Oh God, what a terrible the prediction. It started off bad, it's got worse. Wheelchairs too. How problematic. The whole thing's problematic, man. Every comment here, some people just really despise them. The beauty of it is, as we've always said, they're alternative versions, aren't they? But they would have very labour intensive, and I think I know the heart was in the right place, and I'd love to see some more. I sincerely would. So I'm hoping this isn't true, but I do.
I think it's possible. I think it's possible that we might see some more coming out on Blu-ray. Ultimately, I wonder whether they will do any more transmitted. I'm not sure that another one will be transmitted now, sadly. Maybe another few years at an anniversary.
If they got the attention that the animated, if they got the attention that the animations do with screen, did they get screening at the BFI? Did they screen the? I think they did screen the War Games in colour at the BFI. Come to think of it,
I think they did, didn't they?
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah.
It's a shame if all they need to do is colorize them and just edit them simply and sympathetically. And not mess with them in any way, and you'd get away with it. Then the War Games could have worked if you just tragically just cut out huge chunks of it and just cut it down into a simple story. It could have worked. It's the intercutting. It's the as you say, Dan. It's the indulgence that they engage in with the sound design and
just pushed it that bit too far.
Yeah, absolutely. Just keep it simple, and it works. No need to rewrite history.
When you think if that's going to have an extended life, people, it's still on iPlayer. People can still watch this thing. But if you're going to go to the Hooniverse Hub on the iPlayer, and you've met with a choice of what you want to watch, I think more often than not they're going to go for the actual story rather than a special presentation like that.
Yeah,
I think if people are that way minded, so you've really got to make more of it on the night. Yeah, maybe the whole thing, the shape of it all was a little inconceived. I don't know.
And a thing that worries me as well when you talk about streaming services and like the iPlayer, and this is why I'm physical media, because they did that with these stories. They thought, we're going to cut them down and chop them up. But when it gets to a point, and I can see it coming because it's already happened in other places, in the USA with films. They then make the decision on what version you should be watching.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I start getting worried. So you could have on iPlayer, as an example, only the colorized version will suddenly be available. That's why I always stick to physical media, because they can do that at the drop of a hat. The original, you might say, as a famous person once said.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's me all the way.
Yeah, and I would agree, John. And I think the other thing with the thinking behind it was that they genuinely thought, and maybe they still think, and maybe I'm wrong, and there genuinely is a younger audience out there that wants to sit through the War Games I think sadly that's they're chasing an audience that doesn't exist. There are young people that will want to sit through the war games, but I think, truth be told, they'll just be happy if they're that into classic Doctor Who. They will want to watch the full version of the war games rather than see some cut down version that doesn't actually make a lot of sense. I think it's unlikely that a young
whereas the Daleks have the Daleks as an extra hook. Doctor Who, like we said earlier on, Doctor Who and the Daleks, like fish and chips in colour, that it sort of sells itself.
Mm-hmm.
The war games,
if
you don't already know Doctor Who, you don't know the significance of it. It's just another Doctor Who.
You're not going to be drawn to it. You're not going to. So the people that will be watching it are us lots, and I'm sorry, but we're all a little bit old and crusty now, and so we don't need hyper fast editing and music that drowns out dialogue. We don't need that.
Richard Brooks calls it Star Wars syndrome here in the live chat watching YouTube.
Yeah,
it is very much that. There we go. Gilding a lily. Gilding a lily is a more poetic way of saying it.
What's your final prediction then, Simon?
My final prediction, and I think I made this prediction last year.
Okay.
But I'm going to stick with it this year because I'm convinced that if I make this prediction every year, at some point it will come true.
Okay.
I am going to predict that a missing episode does come to light this year.
No, you didn't predict this last year. You didn't.
Did I not?
No, you didn't.
Okay.
No, you had a Patrick Troughton Blu-ray release collection coming out.
I was wrong on that one, wasn't I? I was wrong on that one.
Yeah, we were both wrong because I was as well.
But I'm going to predict. I'm still convinced that there are missing episodes out there that exist either in private hands and are known within limited circles to exist, or that are still out and just haven't quite been discovered as yet. And so I am convinced at some point, I'm in no doubt at all that we haven't seen the end of the recovery of missing episodes just yet. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say at least one episode will be returned.
It would be really nice. It's been a long time.
Been a long time.
Are you suggesting it could be an entire serial or just one episode?
Well, no, I'd love that, but I think that's too unrealistic. No, I think an episode. I think an episode.
Okay.
Have you been following this project? Film is Fabulous. Anyone?
No.
Stephen Braddock in the live chat. Hi, Stephen. He mentions that they have 15,000 cans that they've just received. I've seen this on social media, through their social media.
Is it
15,000 cans that they've got to go through? They're planning on getting through them all this year.
Can I ask, Simon? Is there one part that you want to see really, really badly that you've listened to 100 times and you're like, I want to see this episode visually?
Fury from the Deep. I would love to see Fury from the Deep. And so, to be honest, any episode of Fury from the Deep would be just gold to me. Either that or Marco Polo. Any episode of Marco
Polo. Now you're talking.
I would love to see, and it wouldn't matter to me, Matt, which episode came back, because they're all gold in those two stories.
I just want to
feel the same.
Sounds good.
I was going to say Marco Polo with Kublai Khan. The Doctor and Kublai Khan, just that.
I suppose you're right, actually, John. Thinking about it, if a Marco Polo episode is to come back, you want episode 6 or 7, really, don't you? Whereas just Fury from the Deep, I think, in all honesty, Fury from the Deep, I probably want to see the middle of the story, simply because that will be the point at which it's really, really scary and before it starts to sort of resolve itself. But yeah, I'm going for a classic episode back.
Can I say I'd love to see the Macro Terror?
We haven't had any episodes.
I would love to see the Macro Terror.
We haven't had any episodes returned. We haven't had any episodes returned for so long, Matt, that I think when Simon said that, I thought, oh yeah, of course I want that. It's the most, I think maybe if we all wish hard enough, maybe if we'd all have chosen this as one. Because you think, okay,
it would work.
Something's got to turn up. This has been the longest period of time in between recoveries, I believe. Is that right?
I would say probably since they first started to come back in the early 80s, absolutely, it's the longest period between recovery of episodes. Yeah, definitely.
I remember getting Doctor Who magazine and seeing it because you remember when they used to do those telesnaps. They used to reprint them telesnaps, and they had one of Web of Fear, and it was that guy with the cobwebs over him. And I was like, that looks like one of the best stories ever. And I got my wish. It came out, and it was great.
Well, maybe Trump will assign a special task force to travel the globe looking for lost Doctor Who.
Well, it took a while for JFK to be released.
Elon Musk could be put on the Recover Doctor Who episode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He seems to be over everything else.
He is,
doesn't he?
Come on, Elon, sort it out for us. Find Marco Polo, do something useful.
Obviously, these have been our predictions about what's to come in Doctor Who on and off screen throughout 2025. Ideally, in some cases, or others are sad reflections, or us hedging our bets, gilding lilies, hoping for the best, or simply preparing ourselves for the worst. Anything can happen in the Who-niverse. And I know it's a fantasy show. I know it's a fantasy show, so you think, well, expect the impossible. But you'd think that a show that's been running for all this time, it would be like a really well-oiled machine. But the talking points, quite often when we do this show, I think, well, who'd have thought this time last year we'd be reading an article from The Sun that says Doctor Who's cancelled. It seems mad.
It's Groundhog Day.
Yeah. You would just never have predicted it. Obviously, we want your predictions as well. So let us know what you think of our predictions and some of yours too in the comments. Dougie Stewart is obviously still hoping for the final episode of the 10th Planet or Power of the Daleks. Never unpopular choices, are they? When we talk about this
choice. So many good choices out there.
I do want them.
Somebody else said, here we go, Woodhouse122 suggests the Dalek Master Plan episode 12 when Sarah Kingdom ages to death. Absolutely, Woodhouse. Yeah, another cracker of an episode to see. So many.
12 years, says Peter Harrington.
Yeah, it is.
Vanessa says, I want an intact last episode of the Dalek Master Plan. Very popular story.
Yeah, it is. It is 12 years. You're quite right, Peter.
Domgo wonders, I wonder if in 50 years from now, John, Doctor Who fans will be looking for missing episodes like Space Babies.
No.
Destroyed them all. It'll take me that long to destroy.
It'll be like that E.T. game in the 80s where they're all buried.
They bury them in the desert.
We'll just give them all to Dan, shall we?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, but I'll take those. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine with that, certainly. And let's have a Delta and the Bannermen special on Tales from the TARDIS. That would be good as well. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, I'll definitely have some of that. Obviously, some of these may come true. Who knows? But it's been a lot of fun speculating, as always. When isn't it fun to speculate in the Doctor Who universe with your mates? I think this is some of what Doctor Who fans do best, Simon.
That's what we do all the time best, is speculation. That's what we live on.
Charlotte certainly pulled a couple out of the pack that I wasn't expecting either. So you never really know what you're going to get. This is Type 40 live across Rumble, X, YouTube, and on Facebook too. But yes, unsurprisingly, as we're back for another season, we are overrunning. We're overrunning. But yes, the Type 40 live ad break, that's back too. So yes, this is old favourites from the archive that show our Doctor Who legends doing what we do, paying the lecky by doing something they probably didn't want to do, by plugging everything and anything from white goods to good times. Some of us will take this opportunity to nip off to shake the weasel or indeed the lettuce. But if you're blessed with a bladder like Toberman's, you'll get to focus all of your stream right here. We'll see you back in a couple of minutes.
What you got there?
No quick soup.
Quick soup?
Be special good for easing the feverish pitch of modern life. relieving the hustle and bustle of a mad, hectic world, rushed off his feet.
What are you drinking it for that?
I don't know. But it don't have to taste good.
No quick soup. Tastes more like a slow soup.
The new Doctor Who toy collection, featuring the 12th Doctor action figure and all your favourite characters.
Daleks are the supreme beings.
Join the Dalek Empire with this awesome Dalek attack vehicle. Let the invasion begin and battle the Doctor through time and space.
Exterminate!
Connect the time zone playsets. Build bigger adventures. Become the Doctor with the new touch control sonic screwdriver. The ultimate Doctor Who toy range from Character.
Hello, I'm Anita Dobson, and I'm delighted to be the Honorary President of the UK Gold VIP Club. The VIP Club is specially for UK Gold viewers and will keep you up to date with all the news and programmes on UK Gold, plus offers on videos and books. If you would like to join, then write to this address, UK Gold VIP Club, Free Post, PO Box 168, Derby, or see Gold Text, page 263 for details.
Welcome back to your Type 40 Live annual for 2025, covering the best of the past, the present, and looking to the future of Doctor Who. We're all across Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook to refreshed, repointed, and redressed for the occasion. Duck, guys. Yeah, the panel are here too. We're resplendent, basking in our predictions for what could be to come in 2025. I think, was there any real shocks there? I don't know. I was a little bit shocked by yours too, Matt. Come to think of it, I thought you were going to go somewhere really sort of off-piste with that, with some sort of animated version of Doctor Who. Maybe.
No, I've been thinking about this for the last couple of weeks, actually, especially with the Whoniverse and everything. It's got me thinking a lot lately. A lot.
Got you thinking a lot. Some new ads there in the Type 40 Live ad break, particularly the UK Gold.
Yeah, never seen
there
that
from
before.
1993.
That's so late 80s, isn't it? Early 90s. My goodness.
Anita Dobson was out of EastEnders a couple of years by that point, I think, and there she was, flogging the UK Gold's own membership club. I had no idea they'd got one. John, did you get UK Gold when you were a kid?
I got UK Gold and we got Satellite, and I demanded UK Gold purely for Doctor Who omnibuses on a Sunday morning. Yeah.
Quite right too.
I'm glad somebody got them, because I was very disappointed. Lots of people I knew sort of at college and things like that had got UK Gold and cable and things, but they weren't as into the stuff as I was, and they were all watching the material that I wanted to see. It was absolutely heartbreaking. Anita Dobson there with a pile of videos, including a Blake 7 and Doctor Who one. She got Day of the Daleks there in a little stash. So if anybody does see Anita at an event over the next few months, ask her what she made of it. If she still got it. But she upgraded to the Blu-ray now, because obviously back then there were omnibus versions, weren't they? So she's probably as angry as we were, Simon, that they've been cut down to 90 minutes. I'd say.
I dare say she was. I do remember what those old, was it Saturday morning or Sunday morning that the compilations were on Gold. It was just brilliant. Happy days.
Saturday mornings for them, and then Sunday for Who was just, it's great. Get up early, put it on record on the old VHS, go back to bed.
Happy days.
Are there any members of the UK Gold Club in the live chat there on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, or X? Let us know there, or drop us a comment. Maybe send us a picture of you with your membership pack if you've still got it. This is Doctor Who fans. Of course, they've still got it. We keep absolutely everything. We keep absolutely everything, don't we? And I think that's very evident by how well documented Doctor Who history is. I mean, some of it is pure trash, it has to be said. Not all of it is distinguished, but I think if something's put in paper and bound in leather, Simon, that's often a sign that it's worth not just commemorating, but preserving, conserving, and passing down through the ages. The best book that I can think of, it's usually found, I think it's probably in the smallest room in your house. for the purposes of being appropriate, under your very arm, isn't it? And the title of that book would be The Doctor Who Diary. I think. Have you got it to hand?
I have got it to hand. It's just here and it's ready to be opened.
Absolutely fabulous. Yes, the time has come, everybody. It's back. He's back. And so's the Doctor Who Diary.
I love that music.
Indeed. Yeah. We have new music on the diary, and I should be interested to see if anybody in the chat can identify which story that is from.
The Davison one.
An award of absolutely nothing at all for the first person to identify.
No prize.
Yeah, here we go.
A copy of Space Babies to the person who gets it right.
Multiple copies.
So here it is. Yes, the diary is back. Welcome to a brand new year of diaries. If you are new to Type 40, this is what the diary section is when we take a look back across, more than 6 decades of our favourite show to see what was happening in the worlds of Doctor Who this week in years gone by. So who knows? We might hit the fast return switch for more than 60 years ago to see what was happening right at the very dawn of time, at the creation of the Whoniverse, if you like. Or we may just do a short hop and we might just skip back just a year or so. Like the TARDIS, the fun of the diary is in the unpredictability, in that we can set the coordinates on the console, and we can give the helmet regulator a really good twist, but we're never quite certain where or when we will land. Our landing point today could be any one of 25 new episodes. There were 25 new episodes screening at various points of the time continuum this week in years go by. So you could have been watching BBC One in the final week of February over the past 62 years. You might have been watching The Seeds of Death. Episode 6, The Seeds of Death, was just concluding back in 1969. 7 years later, in 1976, The Seeds of Doom, not to be confused with The Seeds of Death,
all about the seeds,
was nearly that's nicely topical because of the fact. Have I frozen? Did I freeze there?
You did, but you're back now.
Sorry if I froze. Doctor in the Site. I'm back now. Doctor in the Silurians, was screening. It was in the middle of its run back in 1970. That's nicely topical because, of course, we've got the season 7 box set out next week. So many stories were screening. To bring us back down to earth with a bump, can you believe it's 5 years since the Timeless Children was trying to rewrite the previous glorious 57 back this week in 2020? But we move on. So the spoiler alert is that we're not going to be talking about any of these episodes in today's diary. What on Gallifrey can be left to talk about if we're skipping over, get this, the Web of Fear, the Sea Devils, Death to the Daleks, the Talons of Weng-Chiang, Enlightenment. All of these were screening in years gone by this very week, the last week of February. But we're not talking about any of them. First and foremost, I do want to wish a very, very special Type 40 40th birthday to Sadie Miller. Sadie Miller is celebrating her 40th birthday this week. And I mention that purely because, Dan, we've not long released our chat with Sadie.
That's right.
And Daisy
Ashford
at Hooverville towards the end of last year, in September of last year. So August even. So very happy birthday, Sadie. And to everybody, go out and there it is. There is our podcast on the right there, where Daisy Ashford and Sadie Miller were very indulgent with us, weren't they? They were
great.
Game for a laugh. Thank the Lord. They were game for a laugh. So happy birthday, Sadie. But so what are we really talking about this week? Well, what we're really talking about this week is a word actually that's been on every Who's fan's lips for the past week or so, and we've already talked about it. And that is the dreaded word is cancellation. And so this time we are giving the helmet regulator a really good twist, because we're heading back to the turbulent time at the very birth of Doctor Who, because unbelievably, the early part of 1965, exactly 60 years ago, was when the show was just 1 year old, and it was nearly, for the first time ever, Doctor Who might very easily have disappeared from our screens forever.
Exterminated.
I leave a dramatic pause. I feel there should have been a nice echo effect on forever there, because
we'll have to get that sorted. Get some echo effect.
Yeah, sort that in the edit. Now, listen, folks, this is actually quite a complicated story. So you better hold on to your hats, strap yourselves in. So you remember those ridiculous safety harnesses that they used for one night only in Time Lash? Funnily enough, exactly 40 years ago. Yeah, strap yourself into those ridiculous those TARDIS harnesses, because this could be a bit of a bumpy ride. We're actually back at the beginning of 1965. And as we can see from the screen, Dalek Invasion of Earth had recently completed transmission with episode 6, Flashpoint. And that particular episode, the final episode of the Dalek Invasion of Earth, actually marked the 52nd episode to be made. Think about that for a second. 52 episodes of Doctor Who had been made by the end of the Dalek Invasion of Earth. Logically,
quite a lot in a short period.
Well, also, do the maths. That's one complete year. 52 weeks is one full year. So that basically marks the end of the initial 1 year run for Doctor Who. So it was logically, time was up. It was over. That was the end. That was what they contracted everybody to, was 52 weeks. It was contracted for a full year. That was what they planned to do. There was a short break, of course, before, in effect, season 2 started with Planet of Giants and then the Dalek Invasion of Earth. But effectively, this was the end of the full 52-week run. The cast had been contracted for that. So, in a kind of turn left moment, this could have been the end of Doctor Who forever. And
this is all complete news to me.
Now.
I've never heard any of this before.
We wouldn't even be sitting here talking about this, because Doctor Who could have ended now, back in 1965, exactly 60 years ago. Now, equally spooky to this, in a sort of very timey-wimey way, is the fact that the Dalek Invasion of Earth, which closed 52-week run out, Dalek Invasion of Earth began its life exactly 61 years ago this week. It's like this stuff writes itself, isn't it? I do want to mention at this point, I'd really like to mention and pay tribute to the Black Archive book on the Dalek Invasion of Earth, which I have here. Here we go. If you're not aware of Black Archive books, I cannot recommend these things.
I've seen these online, but I've never bought one.
I can't recommend these highly enough. Go to Obverse Books online, to the website Obverse Books. They've got so many of these now. They're basically they're full critical analyses of a single Doctor Who story. So in this case, obviously, this one is for the Dalek Invasion of Earth, and I can't recommend these highly enough.
Brilliant.
Just brilliant pieces of work. Seriously,
it's like a real library.
If like me, you're into your critical analysis and you like sort of delving deeply into this stuff, these are brilliant. Now, interestingly, on the chapter 1, the first page of chapter 1, one of the first lines is, for the first 9 months of its life, Doctor Who was always on the brink of cancellation, only originally commissioned for 13 episodes. But then obviously they had the option to go on and make the remainder that would have made 52. This book is a brilliant summary of what was happening in this turbulent point in the history. What basically happened, the Dalek Invasion of Earth, before it had even been made, there was no certainty whatsoever to say that Doctor Who would continue beyond that initial 52-week run. And so back in February 1964, the year before, the Daleks, the original Dalek serial, had just finished broadcasting. Now, we always assumed that was the point in Doctor Who's history that the future was secured and
Dalek Mania and all that.
Of course, the Daleks were huge. So we always assume wrongly that was the point that Doctor Who's future was assured. But as we'll see, it couldn't be further from the truth. On the 20th of February 1964, so just a few days ago, BBC Enterprises, which in those days was responsible for the OCs and the merchandise, that's now become, obviously, as we recognise, it's been merged with and become ultimately BBC Studios. But BBC Enterprises, as it was in 1964, as I say, just a week ago, on the 20th of February, had clocked the massive commercial potential of the Daleks, because, as I say, that initial serial had just completed screening. BBC Enterprises had contacted Sidney Newman, head of drama, who, of course, had created Doctor Who in the first place. And they asked Sidney, are the Daleks returning? Because they really wanted them back. But it was on the 24th of February, 1964, 24th of February, just a couple of days ago, 61 years ago on Monday, that Donald Wilson, who was the head of serials, replied to say, yes, the Daleks will be coming back. And that's because this week in 1964, the Dalek Invasion of Earth was commissioned from Terry Nation to become that final serial that would close out the 52 weeks of that first year. And the wheels were set inexorably in motion for the beginning of the end of that 1 year run. Now, this is where things begin to come really unstuck in a fashion that actually makes today's messy shenanigans that we've just talked about whatever might or might not be happening behind the scenes on current Doctor Who, it makes that look like play school. As we've already mentioned, Serial K, which would become the Dalek Invasion of Earth, as I say, was due to end the year-long contracts of the cast. And we'll see, you brought it up a second ago, Dan. We've got there We've got, there we go. That is the official document that basically says the contracts of the main lead characters expire on October the 24th. It's urgent that we renew on the basis of a run-off program. This basically means that this was in May 1964, that this had already been flagged up, that these contracts needed to be renewed. As I say, so this is sort of 6 months ago we're talking now.
Good chunk of time.
At a big chunk of time. Now, the problem with all this is that the powers that be at the BBC had not yet agreed to extend the show. Donald Baverstock, who's the chief of programmes for BBC One, was considering just 7 more episodes after the Dalek Invasion of Earth, just purely to finish the show off. Now, Carol Ann Ford's agent had already tried to get her out of her contract early because she was not happy with the way the character had not developed in the way she'd been promised. So she wanted out of the show. So now, bearing in mind that the 52-week run was ending, she absolutely wanted out now. She did not want to be continuing to sign up to a new 52-week contract. So by late spring 64, there was still no news of an extension. The Dalek Invasion of Earth was being written with the intention of bringing in a new companion called Seda. But the problem with that was going to be pointless. If they weren't going to continue with the show beyond the Dalek Invasion of Earth, what was the point in writing out Susan and bringing in a new companion just to then end the show? It would be a complete waste of time. Likewise, if the show was only going to continue maybe for a few weeks after the Dalek Invasion of Earth, they'd need to renegotiate Carol Ann Ford's contract as well for her just to finish off that initial run of maybe 50, 60 weeks, perhaps at the most. And this is where then, here we go, this is where Verity Lambert now basically wrote a memo saying, look, we really need to know what's happening here. The last day of recording.
Never heard this before.
William Hartnell has, as you can read on screen, William Hartnell's already had an offer, and they're looking to go ahead. Likewise, by now, William Russell was also in negotiations to move on. You can see Verity Lambert saying she's not intending to renew Carol Ann Ford's contract. So basically, it was getting difficult.
This reads so cold, doesn't it, Simon?
Yeah, I have a feeling that if we wait for much longer, we will find ourselves in the position of losing our artists, which can only lead to a certain amount of chaos at the end of our next serial. So things were getting really quite serious by this point. Sidney Newman and Verity Lambert both separately threatened to pull the plug at the end of the Dalek invasion of Earth. They basically both independently said, look, we can't go on with this. We're going to have to pull the plug. We might as well
out of a sense of professionalism.
Yeah, we might as well just finish the Doctor Who at the end of the Dalek invasion of Earth, because we're at risk of losing the entire cast. Indecision as a result of this led to them dropping the new girl, Seda, who had been mooted as Susan's replacement. She just got dropped from the Dalek invasion of Earth, why you no longer see Seda in that show. So
the traces don't
chaos.
The traces don't remain in any other fringe character.
No.
They just wrote the thing out.
They wrote her out. I mean, in effect, she's replaced by Jenny, but Jenny was a completely different character to Seda, because Seda was going to be a young girl of around about 14. They'd even got the actress contracted to play Seda, so they had to pay her off and cancel the contract.
Interesting, Simon. Sorry, I was just going to say, when you're saying about a girl of about 14, was it around the similar time? Do you remember we were talking about a few weeks back about the comic strips with the boy and girl? Do you think maybe they were going that? Yeah,
it would have been around about the same time that they were in the comic strip. Yeah, absolutely. And so they were looking to replace Susan with very much a younger character. Basically, it was chaos behind the scenes. Donald Baverstock finally agreed to extension. He finally agreed to 13 weeks, which meant that Carol Ann Ford could leave, because they could write her character out and they would replace her with a new character that maybe would just go on for 13 weeks. But it was long enough to allow them to do that. So Carol Ann Ford was free. She was very, very happy. The remaining cast would have to be recontracted. But this was, again, where it started to get really messy, because by now, William Hartnell, bless him, was getting a bit cheesed off. He refused to accept anything now less than a 6-month contract. Also, both he and William Russell and Jacqueline Hill wanted more money. So, incredibly, Verity Lambert at this point was basically saying we might have to remove our entire cast, our entire regular cast. So here we can see another memo from Verity Lambert saying, look, William turned down the offer completely. He wants 6 months at minimum. William Russell's agent is on holiday. He will just about go with 13 weeks, but he wants to be brought in line with William Hartnell. He wants more money. Jacqueline Hill would accept 13 weeks, but again, she wants an increase in salary. We've tried, and Verity finishes on saying, we've tried to negotiate on any of the above. As you would see, it would mean an incredible, a considerable increase in money. Things were really, really difficult behind the scenes. What would they do? And time was running out, because Terry Nation was trying to write the Dalek invasion of Earth.
Finally, when you say this does look really difficult. I mean, was it particular to this show, do you think? Or a couple of people in the live chat have mentioned the momentum that are making the show on was similar to a soap opera. Was it the nature of this particular kind of beast? Whereas, say, on The Saint or a show like that, they wouldn't have had these problems.
They wouldn't have had these problems simply because it was something like The Saint or a film series, The Avengers, whatever, was a much more discreet beast in that they would have agreed to make 13 episodes.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And that would be it. The thing with Doctor Who was it was being treated in effect like a soap opera in that, it was. Remember, Dan, that when Doctor Who was originally commissioned, it was expected to run for a full 52 weeks a year. It was seen as a soap opera. There was going to be no break. The only reason there was a break between the Reign of Terror and Planet of Giants, when there was a 6-week break, was because Verity Lambert requested and said, we need time to catch up. We're simply running out of time here. We can't keep up with this.
I assumed it was like for the World Cup or for industrial holidays or something.
No. Like that. It was to catch up. It was to catch up, to make a bit of headway. So that was why there was a 6-week break. So they'd already broken what would have been a 52-week run, and then it would have continued another 52-week run. So this was not like your film series that you think. No, this was like a soap where it was kind of a juggernaut rolling along, and you either had to slam the brakes on and cancel it and stop it, or on the hoof, you'd got to work out what you were going to do.
Because they would get to a point where it'd be almost cheaper to start something else.
Well, Dan, that's an interesting point, because they were exactly that. They were looking for a replacement. They were looking for a replacement at this point.
Kind of like Matt wants them to do now.
They were trying to find, they were trying to find something different to do instead of Doctor Who, and they realised actually no, Doctor Who was well, A, very popular, but B, it was clearly much further ahead. They didn't want to go back to the drawing board and start all over again. It was easier just to continue with what they'd got, which is why Donald Baverstock finally in the summer of 64 agreed to a full 6-month extension, basically William Hartnell's request, and finally the show was secured. And Baverstock sent round a memo saying
this one.
This one? Well, this is Verity's memo. That's basically Verity Lambert finally on August the 24th sent this to Donald Wilson, saying, after the drama of the last 10 days, we seem to have arrived at a solution, which is that Doctor Who will continue for another 6 weeks. William Hartnell has negotiated for a straight 6-month contract. We're going to have to raise the price. Donald Baverstock has agreed to it. She was renegotiating still with William Russell and Jacqueline Hill, but obviously they wanted more money, and they got it. Not as much as they wanted, but they did get more money. And so finally, there she is at the bottom. I'll not bother you with the copies of all of the correspondence which has been going on about this. I'll leave it on your desk on your return, because he was on holiday. Poor bloke. Poor
this was less than a fortnight.
Yeah. And so finally, after all those months and months of negotiation, you're talking 6, 7, 8 months of negotiation, finally we can breathe a sigh of relief, and Doctor Who was saved. And thus, that's why we are still here today. It could so easily have gone another way, and we wouldn't be sitting here now talking about it, because the Dalek invasion of Earth would be the end of Doctor Who.
It's fabulous to read these communications, isn't it, Matt? Not just because of the information that Simon so beautifully summarised in there, but it's also the language they use too.
Yeah. So as I'm understanding it, they renewed. They ended up renewing William Hartnell's contract after the 26 weeks, but they didn't renew Jacqueline and
no, they did. They
did. Yeah, but after this. This is when they left.
You're correct. You're spot on there, Matt. Basically, their 26 weeks then ran out at the end of the chase. And so, yes, they then departed.
I'm just trying to think of a timeline, Simon.
Yeah. So, well, it's difficult to see. It's difficult to know really whether Jacqueline,
because there's what's on screen is sort of in a different groove to everything that was going on here, isn't it? It is like two strings.
And what you forget, because there is that break between the Reign of Terror and Planet of Giants and the Dalek invasion of Earth is a few weeks into season 2. You forget that actually it was still within that first 52-week run. So that would have been the initial year. It would have taken it up to basically November 1964, and that's when it should have transmitted, and that's when the Dalek invasion of Earth would have ended transmission, and as I say, ostensibly with the end of the run.
Verity Lambert's very nonsense in these communications. I mean, they must have been pulling their hair out. Sidney Newman must have been beside himself, the boss, Mr. Bang, 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 or whatever it was. Buff, buff, buff.
Well, absolutely. And there is a memo out there. And by the way, for anybody that is interested in looking into this further, if you've got the Blu-ray box set for season 2, all of this paperwork is viewable in the PDF section on the Blu-ray. You can go and find every one of the pieces that we showed. And there's a great memo in there from Sidney Newman, where he is threatening to pull the plug at the end of the Dalek invasion of Earth, not least because at that point he wants moving from Lime Grove Studios. He wants in to Riverside Studios. And he basically says, if you don't move us to Riverside, then I am pulling the plug on it. And it's a beautiful memo, and he says it would be a waste, it would be a tragedy to fritter away Doctor Who on limited resources. What he's basically saying is either make it properly or don't make it at all, and I'm taking it away.
It's a pity he's not around to have a word with Russell.
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
Punch him.
I was just thinking the exact same thing, Dan, in the fact that you can see the professionalism in Verity's work, in his work, and just all the paperwork. You know, you can just see the profession. This is what we've got to get done. This is what we need.
Yeah,
they're not scatterbrained.
No, they're focused.
And it must have been a nightmare. It must have been very difficult, Matt.
Yeah. No, I think that's it was just an incredible achievement. They've got no idea.
And can you imagine William Hartnell behind the scenes? He would have been not in a happy mood. He would have been quite grumpy. And Carol Ann Ford really wanted out. And she was basically being told, we might not be releasing you because we might need you for a few weeks more. But Verity Lambert knew that was going to cost a fortune, simply because the three leads, will be able to just name their price. They'll be able to say, okay, you want us for another 7 weeks, you got to pay us.
And I can just see the relief, and then them to turn around and go, oh, now we have to replace them if we, with the newer contracts.
Terry Nation must have been tearing his hair as well, because he was trying to write this script, but he didn't know whether Carol Ann Ford was leaving or whether she wasn't, whether Sada was going to be the new companion, whether she wasn't. He needed to know what he was doing. So it's just an absolute nightmare. And as I say, anybody that's interested, go and find the Blu-ray box set, go and look at the paperwork, or as I say, read the Black Archives book on the Dalek Invasion of Earth, which goes into far more details. And goes into the whole tortured process of the Dalek invasion of Earth. So what I say, all that was happening basically 61 years ago in 1964, and reaching a culmination exactly 60 years ago this week in 1965. Crazy days.
We've got Stephen Braddock has dropped a comment in the live chat. He's watching on YouTube, Simon, and says, that was amazing. I've never heard any of this before. Thank you for your research and presentation of tonight's Doctor Who diary. Oh, it's nice to be appreciated.
Thank you, Stephen. You're very welcome. It was. I had a lot of fun putting
good
it
at
together.
it,
When I first sort of started to uncover this, and I said to Dan, I just emailed Dan and said, "I've got an exciting one this time. This is quite a mad story that was unfolding." I'm going to finish the diary just very quickly. We're not going into any detail on this at all, but it would be improper for me not to point out that it's exactly 40 years ago, in 1985, that the great cancellation did occur. In fact, today was the day, the 27th of February 1985, when who, as we see there, was axed in a plot by the BBC, or at least
an article in the Sun.
It was a cancellation. It was a who knows what it was, but whatever it was called, it happened today.
This was one of the worst days of my life, Simon. As a 10-year-old.
I agree, Dan. I remember seeing the newspaper. We got the Daily Express at that point in my family's household, and I remember just going to pick up the Daily Express first thing in the morning before I went to school. And sure enough, it was on the front page of the Daily Express, and I was just horrified. It's just utterly shocking. So it had been cancelled, and they very quickly backtracked to say, "Oh no, it's just been postponed."
We never took a paper in our house. I had to see this break on BBC One, courtesy of Sue Lawley, Stourbridge's own Sue Lawley. Yep. She got to read that out to me. It was
Dan? Can you remember? It was broadcast on the 6 o'clock and the 9 o'clock news. Do you remember which one you would have seen it on?
It was the 6 o'clock. It was this one with Sue.
Yeah, with Sue Lawley. Yeah, there we go. The 6 o'clock news. There you go. See the caption now. Yeah, and it went on the 9 o'clock news as well. And then, yes, basically it hit all of the newspapers the next morning on the 28th of February. But as I say, the actual cancellation was today. It basically had been cancelled. JNT basically used Ian Levine to call up the press, to leak it to the press. Which is why it got stuck on the newspapers the next morning. And that was why the BBC then very quickly put out a very hurried statement saying that it had only be postponed. And that was what was that was what was announced the next day. And I just want to say, I know this is going to sound like a broken record, but if you're interested in this story, this is the Black Archive on the Ultimate Foe. This one, I cannot recommend this book highly enough if you are interested in the cancellation. This is by far the best book written about that era. The first chapter of it goes into great depth and the full timeline of exactly what happened at the point of the cancellation, and then obviously goes on to tell you the story about the ultimate foe that finished off the series, that replaced what they cancelled in February '85. This book is just my favorite Black Archive book. It puts everything down so clearly as to what happened in this hugely turbulent time, and there is the great Michael Grade.
The best thing was that we never even felt it because we were still on Peter Davison's era. So I'm just totally unaware of all the horrible things that was happening in the UK at the time. So
it was horrible. It was horrible, Matt. And the stories that were being bandied around. In fact, on Breakfast News the next morning when they first started to talk about it, and on breakfast time in the Breakfast News in those days, they used to do a newspaper section, a review section, where they get a guest in to talk about the newspapers. So of course, Doctor Who is in every one of them. So the BBC were in this embarrassing situation of reviewing the fact that they just killed Doctor Who. And there's this golden moment, and it's on the Blu-ray. You'll be able to see it on season 22 Blu-ray, where Frank Boff puts his hand to his ear and says, "Yeah, I'm being told we'd better move on from Doctor Who now," because it just the conversation just went on about Doctor Who, and the BBC were embarrassed. It was an awful situation for them.
I recently saw an Australian current affairs show actually did a thing on Doctor Who and the Doctor Who fandom. And they were talking about, all the things that was happening in the UK at the time. Mm-hmm. So it was really weird. But they're saying, "Don't worry, we've still got the show, so you don't have to worry about it."
We're all right here.
Yeah.
So isn't it remarkable how time repeats itself? Because we go back to 1965, it was nearly cancelled. 1985, it was cancelled. 2025, who can say?
Well, I was going to say to you, Simon.
History repeats.
If you look at those articles there, when you've got like the Sun and the Star, they're talking almost like there's a love for Doctor Who there when it breaks about it's going to be cancelled.
Very much.
You look at it now, and you look at the articles about the recent rumours that went out. There wasn't the love for it like it was back in '85.
I think you're right, John. It back in '85, it was very obvious that the press really didn't want Doctor Who to go. It feels different this time in that the press are almost looking for the justification and the reasons why Doctor Who.
It's because Doctor Who is now synonymous with wokeism, and wokeism is dead. Really, it's been bleeding out for several months. It's the remnants of it are decaying as we speak, and the press can smell that. And Doctor Who has been known for years now as the most PC show on TV, the most woke show on TV. So that's what it is. Whereas you're quite right, John. The wording of these articles, there's a lot of regret and passion. I suppose,
definitely.
I suppose, John, that Doctor Who sold newspapers. It was one of the few shows that they could always print stories about and know that it would shift more copies. That's probably not the case now, to be fair. Nobody buys newspapers anymore.
No.
But even so, this language, it's a good spot. This language is very different.
Yeah.
It's a different take on it, certainly.
The sympathy with Colin Baker, who hadn't even been playing the part that long. I mean, this is such an exhaustive story, and we've got a special podcast coming out about this. We've been holding on to it for a couple of years because it features the late, great Ian McLaughlin as our panelist, and Ian died a couple of years ago. But he really wanted to record that because it was a period of immense turmoil for him as a Doctor Who fan as well, and he was well into adulthood. So listen out for that across all major podcatchers and the home feed.
Sorry, Dan, go on.
Well, it's on the home feed, and it'll be on the YouTube and Rumble channels as well. So it'll be right here. You can hear an extended talk about all of that. But it doesn't. 40 years. It seems like yesterday.
I know. And as I say, it is remarkable how history has repeated itself with Doctor Who, and it does. Obviously, it is 40 years, so it's logical that we would talk about it. But that's why we're not going to go into too much detail about it, because, as Dan says, we talk about it lots in the chat with Ian McLaughlin. And I can see there's a couple of people in the chat asking, just a reminder, it's Obverse Books, OBVERSE, Obverse Books, that print these black archives. Go and hunt them down there. You can have digital
I've heard
copies
of that line of books. They've been running for several years.
Yeah,
but I'd assumed they were kind of deep texts on the fiction and interpreting the fiction. I didn't know they're about the making of the show. So they
take a number of. I've got many of them. They take a number of different approaches depending on the story. So, for example, the Warrior's Gate one is an incredible book because it goes into detail about the troubled production on that one. Whereas something like the Robots of Death one, actually, Dan, they do with that one. They go into the storyline far more, and they explore robots in fiction. So each writer takes a complete. They have many different writers, and they all take a completely different approach to the material that they're writing about. So you never quite know what you're going to get with them, which is why it's a fascinating range, and it's still ongoing. They're still printing them. Can't recommend.
Peter Harrington says next stop eBay. He's going to try and hunt for some of those, but it sounds like they are.
They're not
still
that expensive.
in print.
They're not that expensive from Obverse Books. You won't pay a lot for them.
About £4 to £9, I think.
I think
depending
about
on the
£6
option
for
you
a
go
digital.
for.
I think it's about £6 for digital and about £7 or £8 for a paperback copy.
I assume they'd be about 15-20 quid, something like that.
No.
More people finding us here on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X all the time. Lots of new names on this edition of the show for the entire live stream and for the Doctor Who Diary. Will Hadcroft's just dropped in. Huge Colin Baker fan. Will Hadcroft, and he says, I remember these years so well. I was 15 and worried that my hero was being attacked by the BBC itself. That's how.
Me too.
That's how I felt.
We all felt the same, and that was the approach that the press took.
That 3-letter word, why?
Yeah.
Why? And even now, even when you listen to Greg talk about it and you think with your adult's head on, you think, oh, well, you're willing to. But after about 10 minutes, you think, no, actually, that's still bullshit. Why?
Yeah.
It wasn't good enough. It was not good enough still.
No. Fortunately, the Doctor Who Diary has been plenty good enough, as always, Simon. What an incredible selection of points of interest.
A bit bonkers, wasn't it, that one?
Absolutely we visited. I had no idea that any of that had occurred back on the original show in those early days, with all those icons as well, sending bits of paper back and forward to one another. I mean, I don't know if that would have been internal or whether it had gone through the post, but my God, some of those envelopes or in trays must have been smouldering, John, with if not with
on
anger,
fire.
then with a sort of a desperation of sorts. When they're making TV at that kind of momentum. Yeah, there's a lot of information there, obviously, and it's Simon. You put it together. You put it together beautifully. So thank you so much. Lots of people are happy to have the diary back too. I'm pleased to say there in the live chat, all your comments are appreciated. Your compliments for Simon, your appetite for what's to come too. Yes, the diary is back. We're back. Let us know what you want to hear more of as well, and maybe we could revisit some of these points, but. This is the beauty of the Doctor Who Diary, Simon. When we put the show together, over a period of time, this is a way that we can visit things that kind of fall between the cracks in the pavement in a way that reviews can't and discussions can't. Yes,
correct.
It works. It still works just as beautifully as it did when we first started doing this. Peter Harrington says, "Hooray!" I'm not sure what he's hurraying, but I agree. Hooray! Hooray!
I think it's hooray for the diary. Bless him.
Hooray for the Doctor Who Diary. Yes, so thank you as always for putting it together, Simon.
Great
and
fun.
I think
Really
we're all
enjoyed
looking forward to the next one. But that's it. That's that for now. Let's play another blast of the new music. Yeah, this is Type 40 live on Rumble, X, YouTube, and on Facebook. Back live streaming, overrunning here with our annual edition for 2025, I'm happy to say. And we've got lots of comments. Thank you so much, everybody. Rob Alexander says it's a superlative entry, Simon. Thank you. Well played,
Thank you, Rob.
Simon.
Thank you, Jack.
From Jack Thursby. Lots of familiar faces, familiar icons, I should say, and names, all as happy to have the diary back as we are. We've got more videos and more bits and bobs to play you all to, and one more quick segment, I think, because we do have someone in the live chat.
Oh, I'm ever so sorry, Dan. Can I just really quickly say, ever so sorry, but Fly Highland has just said, so what's the music from? And Will Hadcroft, well done, Will, has come through the first one that correctly identified it. Rob Alexander is very, very close behind. It is, of course, the great, brilliant score by Peter Howell from The Leisure Hive. One of my favourite all-time scores. There we go. Well done, Will. Well done, Rob. And apologies if anybody got it further up the thread and I missed them. Apologies and well done to you.
Yeah, I think they did actually. That's all part of the fun, isn't it? Thank you, everybody.
Sorry, Dan,
superlative human, says Fly Highland, and it's definitely Howell, says Richard Brooks. Say people did recognise it. And Crimpling says that Obverse Books have a sale on.
There you go.
And I've got a birthday soon, so he's off to start his own list.
Fill your boots, Crimpling. You won't be disappointed.
Talking about fill your boots.
You're watching Type 40. Stupid tune anyway.
Yes, I know that's a friend of yours, isn't it? Yes, so the talent, dedication, and craftsmanship out here in Who Fandom is second to none. There's never any shortage of pretty pictures to distract us from our everyday lives, I suppose, as we scroll. The rest of our lives is pretty dull in comparison. On Type 40 Live, we've always done whatever we can to encourage, showcase, and now and again, sort of debase, really, Doctor Who fan art and artists in our gallery segment, all in a valiant effort to fill up these virtual TARDIS walls. I mean, look at them, with so grey and horrible and big. Yeah, we're going to fill them up with jaw droppers, traditional or digital, from model makers or cosplayers too. It's all fair game. And this time, he was in the live chat earlier on, and we've got some more of his work to look at here. Tom, you're up from T-Dwarf Productions. With this, the Fourth Doctor meets
it's great.
I just think I saw Tom put these up on Facebook, and I just think these are brilliant. In fact, I did say at the time, and I do genuinely believe it, they look better than they looked in the Ark in Space. This is how the Wirren should have looked in the Ark in Space. Bit bigger, obviously. Bit bigger.
Needs a couple of feet at the bottom, yeah.
It's the legs. The legs are just perfect, because I can believe that Wirren can walk on those legs.
Yeah.
That's why it's so brilliant. That's like a spider. I can
I
get that
thought
Wirren can
they walk on their abdomen. I always did.
Well, that's because they kind of had to, Matt, because they couldn't walk on their legs.
I think
they should have been able to walk on their legs. And that's why I think this is better than they appeared in the Ark in Space. I
feel an order coming on. I really do.
Quite right, John.
Yeah.
I mean, each of Tom's creations. Each of Tom's creations makes you just want to stare at it.
Yeah.
I mean, this wouldn't really get too close in case something sprang to life. But just wonderful stuff. The creativity, attention to detail, yes. But knowing the technical aspects, I suppose, of how much weight that he can put on the various different legs of that.
Yes.
It really is impressive. And here they are having a workout there.
This is Tom's pet sticker. What is it? Praying mantis. He knows. Tom loves bugs. He knows I'm terrified of bugs. If that praying mantis was anywhere near me, I'd be in another town.
And still he insists on sending pictures into us.
His work's just beautiful. It's magnificent.
Crimpling Doubloon agrees. It's superb. Wow. Fantastic, Tom, says Peter Harrington. Mock Milford says Tom Alford is making great art again. He is indeed.
He is.
Great work, Tom, from Rob Alexander. I love to be back on the show, says Tom. Yes, you're back in a big way. And love that Wirren, Tom.
Yeah.
Says Stephen Braddock. We've got a brilliant from Richard Brooks, and I love bugs. No, says Tom. Tom himself. It's wonderful stuff. Your passion for this,
I know.
for these creatures.
Yeah.
Is it okay to call them creatures? Your passion for these creatures, Tom, as well as for Doctor Who, and your creativity, sincerely, it really is something to behold. The fandom has every reason to be proud of people such as yourself. Well done, and please keep doing what you're doing. It's absolutely wonderful stuff. We've got Spectritus in the live chat, off topic, who says, stop covering the rumours. The Sun is very unreliable. You know they're extremely unlikely to be true. Well, stop covering the rumours about Doctor Who, says Spectritus to a Doctor Who podcast and live stream. I'm not sure this works. Look, I love your icon there, Spectritus, but there's a dedicated episode about our takes on the Sun's article there, and we were just as scathing as befits, believe me. So try not to judge on first appearances. Thank you for joining us there in the live chat on YouTube. Who else have we got? Lots more praise for Tom. Jay says the Ark in Space was the first episode of classic Who I watched as a child with my dad. It was rerun on BBC 4 in the early 2000s. See, people have got these memories now, John, of the 21st century, and yet it's the stuff that we fell in love with. It's lovely.
It's great, isn't it? And this is why I don't think, as much as people try and ruin it, Doctor Who will never die, because I think there was always going to be love for some of these. Well, most stories, it's just they're timeless, really. Just Ark in Space for me. I mean, like you guys, I don't know how many times now I've watched it, but I'll count ages ago. But every single time the phone gets turned off and I'm in my zone with it, it's just fantastic.
Yeah,
a lot. Yeah, it's the same with me. I mean, right from the omnibus VHS. It never really put me off, niggled a little, but I'm so fond of these stories. I mean, obviously, for me, they're synonymous with the late 80s, the early 90s, John, because that's when they're coming out for me. For our friend Jay, they're synonymous with the early noughties. And for the OGs,
for me, the late 70s.
And another example. We're all proof on this panel
79, 80.
of that principle, which should still be true today, in all fairness, if the Whoniverse was kind of fit for purpose, and if the people sort of with the keys to the kingdom were, polishing up the silverware as well as they should be, I suppose. But if they're not doing that, thank heaven for Tom Alford. He's doing more than his fair share with his incredible Wirren. I'm not quite sure. I have to remind us of your praying mantis's name, but I do hope that they weren't traumatized.
Apparently it's Lee.
Leaf is controlling the Wirrens. Charge!
Well, apparently the praying mantis thinks the Wirren's a boyfriend. So, what can you do?
Turn the light.
Have a headlong.
It'll end in tears. Okay, so from one of our favourites to another favourite, we had to mention this one from Daryl Joyce. Daryl Joyce is, in my view, is one of Britain's best illustrators, whether it's geek culture or not. This is a perfect example as to why this piece, based around Terror of the Autons, which will have the mega geek Ian David Diaz quaking in his boots. That doll gave Ian nightmares for weeks and weeks and weeks. And Daryl has not only managed to capture the simplicity of it on screen, but also to make it even scarier and like something from a Halloween movie in the mid-80s or something.
Yeah, kids, you want nightmares?
Yeah, it looks like something out of a direct-to-VHS movie on Medusa Films label.
Full moon.
Yeah. This is awesome. Yes. Daryl, the colours, the attention to detail, as always, the sense, it evokes 1971, and the look on Joe's face.
I'll tell you what, he's getting a bit close to that Bunsen burner. He'll go up.
Yeah, he will. He'll go full on psychotic, Matt.
He's trying to light his fart, but it's going to end in tears.
I love the fact as well that Daryl has put the puffer fish hanging from the ceiling in the background. Because Yeah, because it is on the set for no apparently good reason whatsoever. There is a pufferfish hanging there, so he's put the pufferfish in.
Nothing gets past that bloke. He's an incredible artist, but massive Doctor Who fan who notices bloody everything. I thought I'd got an eye for detail, but nothing like this guy.
I always thought it was a pinata, isn't it?
Well, now you know what it is.
Absolutely extraordinary work. Dougie Stewart, who's on YouTube, says that's amazing, Daryl. I don't think Daryl's in tonight. He is here a great many of times for live stream, son, but I haven't seen him tonight.
No, I haven't seen him.
Just popped up. He's just
popped up.
Has he? Oh, there he is. There he is. He is watching. He's skulking. He's lurking.
I mean, I'm fed up with him, to be honest with you.
That's
he does such great work.
Take a piece of his artwork for your icon.
Exactly. He does such great work. I have to continually praise him, and it's just getting dull now because it's so good.
It is good, and I'm guessing.
I blame you, Daryl.
Mark Milford says it beats the devil out of Chucky any day, Daryl.
Yeah, good point. Actually, it is kind of the progenitor to Chucky, isn't it? That troll.
For the purposes of our discussion, yes.
It is, definitely. And by the looks of it, Stephen Braddock's saying it's a fantastic piece of artwork on this month's calendar. So I'm guessing this is it's February's image on Daryl's calendar.
I saw it on I think it was on his social media as well. Yeah, absolutely.
That's presumably why he's brought it up. Yeah, very good.
Can't recommend. We support all of Daryl's work in publishing. Every single project gets our full support here at Type 40 and Type 40 Live. One of Daryl's most effective illustrations, says
they're
Rob
all
Alexander.
They're all Daryl's most effective illustrations. That's the thing.
and also I've got to say his videos that he's doing, is of scenes from Doctor Who are amazing,
extraordinary. I'm hoping that Daryl will come on and talk to us about those. We pestered him towards the end of, was it about September, October time? We've already pestered him once in the last 6 months, so we'll go.
We dragged him on, kicking and screaming, didn't we?
Oh, we did. It was awful. Poor guy. He could barely keep his cap on. It was a sight to behold. But sincerely, Daryl, come back on soon, mate. It's good to have you back, and it's always great to see further pieces from your portfolio. I bought a Daryl's Carry On Screaming print last year. It's now pride of place in my home, says Stephen Braddock. And we've got Richard Brooks says your calendar is awesome, Daryl. I'm so glad I have one. I'll try and get a link for that and put it in the description to the video as well.
Yeah, I really should have got one of those. I don't know why. I was fully intended to pick one up. I don't know why I didn't. Very silly.
From the sublime to finish off with the ridiculous. Now, I'm trying to be sporting. Here. We're going to come bang up to date now with some digital art. This is to tease season 2 of All New Doctor Who. This one is from Blue Box Artworks, and it features Belinda and the Doctor there in this blue composition. There's no lipstick smears. Actually, something has been smeared on it, but it's not lipstick, I don't think. But there's a wonderful sort of sense of movement about this, and I do like the choice of colours, even if I still can't. God, I don't like that jacket.
I don't like the jacket.
Yeah.
Good.
Is that the one he wears with a kilt?
It goes with the dress, though.
Does he wear that? Is that a jacket from the show?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, he is wearing that in the show.
Yeah.
Maybe.
What is he wearing it in season 2? I don't know. Is that?
Most likely.
Yeah.
Does he wear the same thing twice though?
Probably can't. I tell you what, I'd hate to be his dry cleaner. There must be some stainage.
He's actually more like the cat from Red Dwarf now, isn't he? Because he's so vain.
It's the same character practically.
Yeah.
Apart from and all that stuff. He does everything else.
Yeah.
Sniffing other cats' bums, everything. He does the lot. Yeah, but I do like this piece from Blue Box Artworks. They're one of my favourite digital Doctor Who artists. And there's several posters that are coming out now that are sort of playing with the imagery that we've had so far for season 2. And even though Shooty's sort of changing his outfits all the time, gets on our tits, for a lot of people, for creativity purposes, at least it's something different to work with. I do see the attraction, shall we say, and I do like some of the flourishes that are in this piece. I hope the series lives up to it. And we recommend Blue Box Artworks over on X. It's a fantastic account. There's some really nice artwork Some really nice artwork on there. Good grief, says Richard Brooks. No thanks, says Scott. Scott, mate. Scott's coming back on soon as well. That's our mate Scott from the Game Closet. Happy 2025 to you, mate. We haven't caught up yet. Not my Doctor Who, says Daleks are forever. Not my Doctor Who. Woodhouse122 says it looks like her arm has been amputated. No, it's both of them. Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, I can see what he means, Woodhouse 22.
Yeah, it looks like it finishes at the elbow.
Yeah, it does.
I know a lot of artists that wouldn't be impressed by that. They'd be like, you need to draw the whole arm.
Part-timers, yeah.
Oh, I understand. It's an artistic choice.
Yes, sir. The cat from Red Dwarf is more entertaining, suggests the Peter Venkman fan site. Can't argue with that, really.
I like sort of the rainbow flares on it, the lens.
So do I.
Yeah.
Very, very
that
good.
always just reminds me straight back to Tom Baker. I don't know why. I love that kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
It's the choice of colours. They complement it all very well. Yeah. And I really love the photography of Belinda so far, and the stuff in the TARDIS. I think it's quite good. I just think the light, it's all it's all really overlit again. Like you said at the top of the show, Simon, I think things need to get moodier. They really do.
Yeah, I agree.
Stephen Braddock says it's better than the official season 2 posters that we had at the top.
Yeah,
at the top
good
of the
point,
show.
actually, Stephen.
It probably is. I think it really drew my eye because I said there's a lot of this kind of artwork that's doing the rounds at the moment, and this was the one that really sort of stopped me in my tracks and made me think, oh yeah, that's nice. I always keep a track of what Blue Box Artworks are doing. I think they're consistently good, and they work. There's professional work of theirs as well on packaging and things like that. So there's some nice stuff to see. Let us know which one you prefer: the official season 2 art that we had earlier on in the show, or the fan art. I'm starting to think the BBC could do a lot worse than actually just put up Doctor Who fan art as the main art to promote the actual show. Come to think of it, I think that's where the passion really lies. A lot more creativity, a lot more innovation. And Blue Box Artworks is definitely one place to go for some more of that if you like your digital Doctor Who fan art. And we're very, very greedy here at Type 40 Live in our Pretty Pictures segment, mainly because these walls are so bloody big and imposing. We need to brighten them up with lots of fan art. So if you yourself are a fan artist, or there's someone whose work you particularly adore and you think we'd love them too, send it our way or us their way. It all works for us as long as we don't miss any of the very best from the most creative of fandoms, the Doctor Who fandom, each and every time. This is Type 40 Live across YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the show, just like she did.
The universe is on the point of collapse. The Doctor and I have to save it, but you can help by watching Type 40.
Yes, we're back, and there's more to be continued. Next time. Let us know about your thoughts on all of the topics and our predictions as we've covered on this edition of Type 40 Live, or simply get in touch. Reach out, as they say, reach out to say hello. You can do that through our social medias. That's Instagram and X at Type 40 Doctor Who. We've got our very own community over on Facebook too, the Type 40 Facebook group. The links are in the description. There's always something new, for better or worse, to discuss over there, and new for 2025. Get in touch with us on SpeakPipe. You can leave us a message across the podcasts and video content. Be part of Type 40 by adding your own voice message from the palm of your hand. It's better than it sounds. It's more hygienic than it sounds. A recorded message, a question, a prediction of your own, any feedback, for example. Do that through SpeakPipe. More details soon. There'll be lots of good stuff, I suspect, coming our way. And you can go at it on all the issues that are dominating the Doctor Who universe, whether the Whoniverse is going to survive or not, for example. You can do that on the Type 40 Facebook group as well. What next? That next coming next week. So we know we're going to be covering that. But what else? I can guarantee there'll be more free speaking, big thinking across the Doctor Who universe there, the past, the present, and the future. Another couple of hours worth of news, views, nostalgia, discussion, and banter, full of our hot takes and cold shoulders, as befits. But yeah, that's it. We're back. Doctor Who's back. They've got a brand new logo. Most of us, I think, we're going to start calling this the Lippy logo. John, I think you're to blame for that. Was that your work? Who came up with that?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and it's, as I said, it's low level marketing across the pubs of the UK. So
we need to think of the name of that colour, don't we, John? That's got a colour. That's got a name. That colour.
Pumas.
Pink. Yeah. Prostitute pink or something like that, you know.
Backdoor pink. So maybe it'll grow on us, guys. Maybe it'll grow on us.
Maybe not.
You get a rash.
We can't. Do you know what, Dan? We can't be too mean because there are some of the old Target books I'm sure would have used a pink logo. I'm sure there must be a Target book out there with the pink logo. Somebody in the chat.
The one on the mysterious planet is absolutely hideous.
Is that pink? That's pink, isn't it? That's the neon logo in pink.
It looks like a giant, like a balloon bending.
That's right.
Artist. It looks like something like that. It's really, really bad. But when we're not criticising logos and predicting where the series could go in the year to come, in 2025, where we're having general conversations about all of space and time and space. Thank you for your company again, John. It's good to have you back, mate.
Yeah, good to see you guys. It's been great. Thanks. It's been a blast. We've had a lot of laughs tonight, and
we have had surprisingly, haven't we? And a good generous amount of giggles.
Yeah, and I've let you enter my mind with some of my predictions as well. So that was a big mistake on your part. So I blame you entirely for that.
A scary place to be. Jack Thursby is. More, I think he means not. He's not excited for the return of
Type means more
than the show itself. I think I know.
I hope he does.
I'm just super happy that now our renegotiations we're getting paid by the hour now.
Yeah, we renegotiated our contract, didn't we, Matt? Just like Hartnell and Russell.
13 weeks.
Was it a can of Coke and a curly whirly like my deal, or was it?
And the bus fare home. Oh no, we're already home. We don't even get the bus fare home.
Yeah. He was very ruthless, everyone. He was like Verity Lambert. He really was.
Yeah, we get memos just like Verity Lambert said.
It's what they call hard Dalek ball. That's what we play, doesn't it?
They're writing me out, by the way. I'm the Type 40 Susan.
We're going to replace you with a 14-year-old called Sada. That's what we're going to do, John.
That'd be all right for the new series.
We've got suggestions for the Lippy logo, the prawn logo.
Oh, I like that.
Cerise pink. Stephen Braddock comes in being sensible. Check it out.
Stephen, I'm sorry. Cerise is far too sensible a name for that. Prawn is better.
Puck pink.
Do you think he means puke pink? I don't know. Puck pink? Puke pink?
It could be.
Please clarify. Puck pink.
Either works. Either works, doesn't it? Yeah. Matt, as our real-life time traveller, you've got the inside track, really, on where things are going for the very tail end of the week. How's it looking so far? And are you looking forward to your weekend, mate?
Well, we're actually at the end of the month here, so it's the 28th of February here already. So,
good Lord.
And that means that we're finishing summer up, so I'm going to enjoy the day before we lose it. So
enjoy it while you can.
Yeah,
good. Always good advice. Thank you for joining us again for this opening edition, annual edition. We'll bring we'll come back to some of those predictions again, I think, later in the year and torment one another with them. How does that sound?
And I sincerely hope I was right with a missing episode. Wouldn't that be fabulous?
Yeah, that'd be great.
They wouldn't announce until the 20. I reckon until the 23rd.
It would be absolutely brilliant. right on the cusp, right on the very end. Yes, and Simon Horton.
Who's cancelled?
Again.
But here's a new episode.
Great to have you back, mate.
Good to be back.
The diary as good as ever. And you're very patient while we chewed our way through the season 2 premiere date being revealed. well in the kitchen calendar. I know it's probably ringed in a giant, probably sunny or puck pink markers. But no, you're great, a great sport as always. And there's looking at the schedule of the next 2 to 3 months before we get to season 2 of Doctor Who. There's going to be lots to talk about.
Yeah,
and I can't wait to get started. So be back here for more, especially classic stuff next week, as most of us will get a delivery, I think, from the postie. It's that time, isn't it, where people start putting their pictures up all over social media. Yes, please like the video if you haven't already. Thank you for all the comments throughout the show, the new faces and the old. Welcome to the channel. If this is your first edition of Type 40 Live, please subscribe to the channel. Check you're still subscribed, because it helps a lot more than you think, as does liking the video. That really helps us as well. Hit the cloister bell to get all the notifications, and stand by for more coming your way very, very soon, when we give this a good old yank and tumble off back into space and time. I've been Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks, and where we'll end up next time, God only knows, but we always have the time if you have the space here at Type 40 Live. Great to be back. Here's to the rest of 2025.